Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. Happy to be here with you on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Our show is brought to you every single day by our friends down at Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. Incredible food menu. Here's a great way to judge whether or not a restaurant or a bar that serves food that's restaurant quality. Here's a great way to judge whether or not it's actually a place that you need to check out. Am I thinking about that food? Do I find myself craving that food when I haven't had it for a couple weeks or a month or 3 months or whatever? In the case of Big Willie's, the answer is yes. The tater kegs that were introduced to us just a couple of weeks ago, I have found myself thinking about those. I should swing by. I should maybe see if they throw me a to-go order. Hey, maybe I'll go watch that Mammoth game there because I want some of those tater kegs. I want some tachos. It is sports madness right now at Big Willie's. NCAA tournament, Masters, NBA basketball, NHL hockey, everything you need. Number one sports bar in Utah, number one pool hall in Utah, a quality spot at 1717 South Main. The bar was newly renovated, by the way, so... and even if you want to do an event there, they've got the VIP room upstairs. They haven't even let us broadcast from there yet. That's how exclusive it is. So if you were listening when we transitioned out of the Sean O'Connell Show yesterday into the Drive with Spence Checketts, we had a little crosstalk, and then I handed over, and Spence brought up something that should be one of the biggest stories we've had in college football in recent years, because the college football world is rife with tampering, and it has become problematic and has become an issue in every school, every conference, every place, okay? Leadership has taken its sweet, sweet time in trying to figure out what they're going to do about tampering, what they're going to do about circumventing of the rules that are in place right now. There was conversation at the coaches conference last year. Hey, maybe we should condense this down. Maybe we should do one transfer portal window instead of two transfer portal windows. And they made that rule change. And obviously we're in that era now where there's only one transfer portal window, which I think is better for all of us, right? And immediately what happened? Conversation comes up about, well, okay, how can you circumvent the rules that exist in this one transfer portal window? And unfortunately, it is way too easy. And the way that you do it is you just quietly unenroll from school, and with equal quiet, you enroll at a new place. Oh, and then magically you're a walk-on at USC now that happens to have a very healthy NIL deal. Weird how that happened. You didn't enter your name into the transfer portal. You didn't go through the process that is now laid out very carefully, or that's probably the wrong way to characterize it. But it's laid out at least in a semi-structured pattern. You can work around these things. And there's always been outliers and strange waivers. Even when you go back to when transfers weren't a reality, they weren't a thing. There's always been like a few people handling those sort of extracurricular cases. Well, as soon as we got a one transfer portal window mandate, the question came in, hey, how do we fix this? How do we get around this? And that's part of the reason why the University of Utah is not going to be doing a spring game this year. It's not the only reason. I want to make that clear, but it's part of the reason, because you want to mitigate the risk as much as you can. You start putting guys out there in a spring game. It's broadcast on ESPN Plus. A random recruiting coordinator or a coach from wherever is just like, holy cow, look what Larry Simmons is doing right now at the University of Utah. Let's go snag him. And then he gets a phone call. His agent gets a phone call in a dead period, in a time where it's illegal, it's tampering. But then instead of entering a name into the transfer portal, somebody like that potentially goes, you know what? I don't like the program here. I don't like the psychology program now. I'm going to unenroll from school and I'm going to find myself somewhere else. It is the loophole that Tulane used after Jake Retzlaff got expelled from BYU last year. He didn't have to put his name in the transfer portal. He was kicked out of school. There's no clearance involved there. He's a free agent. He's in the wind. And he enrolled at Tulane. You can't stop a guy from enrolling. Oh, look at that. You can't stop a guy from walking on. Oh, darn it, we don't have a scholarship for you, even though you're going to be our starter. But you know what? There's no rule that says you have to be on scholarship to receive NIL money. These are the loopholes that still exist. And the NCAA, and Spence talked about this at the very beginning of his show yesterday, and I've been so frustrated that I'm watching Pat McAfee. I was listening to Dan Patrick. You go to ESPN.com right now, and there's nary a mention of these agreed-upon emergency rules. Right now, this is the penalty if you are caught tampering and attempting what they call ghost transfers. 6-month suspension, 6-game suspension for your head football coach. That is beyond the death penalty. That is the most severe penalty the NCAA, the College Sports Commission, whatever governing body, has laid out for college football. A 6-game suspension, a half-year suspension if you do it wrong. And this is even better. A financial penalty to the tune of 20% of a football program's budget. So you're talking about 6-game suspension for a head coach and a multi-million-dollar fine if it is found that you are encouraging ghost transfer. You are circumventing the transfer portal window. That is a massive penalty. It is a sincere effort to quell some of the tampering problems that exist. Certainly when the transfer portal window is about to open, they still have to address that one. But now that it is firmly closed, we know, we've talked to players, these phone calls are still happening. Now, it's not the 12 times a day like back in December, but they're still happening. And the NCAA Board of Governors has come down and said, no, we need this to stop. And I have criticized that toothless organization for many years for being exactly that, just a facsimile of their former selves, a powerless, cowering organization that is so scared of litigation they won't do what's right for college athletics anymore after 30 years plus of doing what was wrong for college athletes. Now they're just like, well, we're too scared to fight it out. We can't do it anymore. Well, this is finally a stepping up to the plate, and I've scoured the internet trying to figure out why aren't more people in my business talking about this? Why is this not a bigger story? And guess what? It ain't because late regular season basketball is that much more fascinating. It's not because you have actual Final Four games. That's not why. There's no distraction on that level. It's not because the upcoming NHL playoffs are really drawing Pat McAfee's attention or getting the hardcore college football fans to take their eyes off the ball. What this is about is nobody believes that these penalties will be enforced. Think about what that means for the state of college sports. That ESPN.com doesn't even feel that this ruling that was announced yesterday is important enough to write an article about. Let's test this out, okay? If you're in front of your work computer, I don't want to get you in trouble. Hopefully you have access to, sports websites and things like that. Go click on ESPN.com, side scroll over to the NCAAF tab. That drop down is going to bring you the top headlines. And it's Big 12's Yormark and Texas Tech booster bicker over schedule. Okay, that's not what we're talking about here. QB Mendoza puts on a show at Indiana Pro Day. Okay, that has nothing to do with this new potential rule change to prevent tampering in college football.
Hold on. Is Mendoza going to unenroll and go somewhere? No.
He doesn't have eligibility left.
Yeah, good point.
Then Golding and Dabo. Oh, here, this one might be it. NCAA proposes ban on players who stay in draft. Oh, no.
That's different.
That's a basketball thing. Why does that even belong on the NCAA football subheading? Ex-Wisconsin tight end. Ohio State's Ryan Day likens college football to dinosaurs. Adapt or die. Texas A&M lands number 11 prospect defensive end. Burns sues Kent State and officials over 2025 firing. Ranking the football coaches and teams that are likely to improve in 2026. Which teams, coaches, and players have the most to prove in 2026? These flaws could hold back the NFL's top QBs. There is not a mention of a potential rule change that leads to a 6-game suspension and a 20% of your football budget fine on the lead website covering all sports in our great nation. Under the NCAA football subheading over an NCAA football rule. The reason they didn't write anything about this is because the NCAA doesn't have the power to enforce it. And ESPN, maybe a little bit too in bed with certain conferences and things like that, are just like, nothing to see here, nothing to look at here, because SEC coaches, if you go to CBS Sports or you go to The Athletic where the articles do exist, an SEC coach speaking on the condition of anonymity says there's no way that this holds up, this bleep holds up. They're not even worried about it. Like, imagine the governing body. Who's the governing body for sports talk radio, James? The national governing body?
We have there's
the FCC?
FCC regulates it.
Okay.
There's also the National Association of Broadcasters. It's more like a union. But
okay, so the FCC sends me an email saying, hey, here's a new rule where if you say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious on air,
dumped it. Don't worry about it.
you get a 6-whatever suspension, a 6-month suspension, and a 20% fine of your station budget if you say this thing on air. And instead of being like, oh, boy, I better worry about this, I just go, nope, not enforceable. Don't have to worry about it. Delete.
Supercalifragil.
Mark it as junk mail in the folder. That's where we've gotten with the governing body in college football. They sat in committee meetings, and they were doing Zoom calls and phone calls, and they're flying people out on first class to sit around those gigantic, enormous Camelot-style round tables and, like, let's hammer this out. Let's hash it out. Let's figure out how we stop tampering, how we stop the situation where when a coach is leaving to take his new job, he's calling the guys that are committed to the school that he was just at and like, hey, you want to come with me? How do we stop the Zacharias Williamses from leaving Utah after spring football? We already shut the transfer portal window. How do we make sure that people don't just follow the Jake Retzlaff move and say, well, I don't have to go through the transfer portal. I'm just going to unenroll and then re-enroll somewhere else, and I'll be a walk-on with a $2 million NIL deal. We have to figure out how we stop this. And they spend time, money, resources, energy figuring out something that is, it is a stiff, serious, scary penalty if you believe it's enforceable. And the problem is that because the lawyers have won the day for everyone or lost the day, depending on your perspective, for everyone on both sides of the fence in college football, but especially when it comes to player movement and rights, the coaches and athletic directors and football operations people and maybe players who get this announcement, or I send you a link, I tweet it out, like, look at this. This is crazy. What a stiff penalty. You're just like, nah, not going to happen. Nah, it's just more billable hours, man.
And going back to ESPN conspicuously subbing themselves out of reporting on this, I guess is how we'll withdrawing from reporting on this is how we'll characterize it here. It feels very similar to, remember all the NFLPA drama that led to the executive director getting fired, basically forcibly resigning, and the guy who was his number 2 is now the new executive director, which I feel like is very ironic. JT Treader or JC Treader or whatever his name is. ESPN didn't report on that either. All of their, and guys like Mike Florio were up in arms about it on the Dan Patrick Show, and Pablo Torre was one of the guys reporting on it from his podcast. Pablo Torre finds out. He was talking with Florio. They were teaming up to report on this, and they were up in arms about why hasn't ESPN done anything about this? And it's funny that we find out a month, maybe a couple months later, we find out the ESPN bought into the NFL. They've got a $10 million equity deal with the NFL or whatever the number is. They own NFL Network now. They own NFL Red Zone. Rich Eisen is back on the air because of that. Oh, and then it was like, oh, that's why they didn't report on it. I wonder what kind of thing that they have with the NCAA, because it's not like NCAA is not like the NFL. These power conferences is not like the NFL where it's just like you can conceivably buy into it the way they did with the NFL. So it's very curious to me what ESPN feels like they stand to lose if they report on this.
Which doesn't make any sense at all. And I'm not here to like make the ESPN absence from this story part of the story. To me, what matters is like Clark Lee from Vanderbilt. He put out a statement. He's just like, man, this is a necessary step. We need this. And one of his colleagues in the SEC was just like, this is not enforceable. Don't care. So your perspective, we live in a nation of rules and laws, and there are plenty of people who are just like, yeah, they don't apply to me. I'm not gonna worry about that, because unless I get caught doing something wrong, it doesn't matter. Right? All of us are guilty of it with like minor traffic violations. You know, I'm going to roll through this stop sign. It's 2 a.m. No one else is driving around in the neighborhood. I'm just going to like go about my merry way. This one-way street. I live around the corner. I'm going to go this wrong way. Spence has a bunch of frat boys in his neighborhood doing that, and he's wagging his finger at them all the time. You know what I mean? Like,
or the X amount of miles over the speed limit I'm personally willing to go over, depending on a highway
correct.
or not. Yeah.
We live in a nation of laws, but all of us are law breakers and rule breakers on some level, okay? And when it comes to the things that we believe actually matter, that's where we're like, yeah, no, I'll go 7 miles an hour over the speed limit. But I'm not going to go 50 miles an hour over the spead limit.
I'm not running a red light. I'm not running a stop sign, but I'll go like 7 miles over.
You know, like I'll occasionally look at my phone while I'm driving, but I'm not going to drink and drive, right? We all have like a threshold. And the problem is in NCAA athletics, the threshold doesn't exist anymore. When someone introduces a rule, introduces a law, the first question that the attorneys ask and that the players ask their attorneys, their managers, their agents is like, hey, if I need to, how do I get around this? Right? And by the way, the first question that a hell of a lot of coaches, unfortunately, are asking is, oh, that's a pretty serious suspension. How would I be able to get around that? And some of them look at it and go, don't have to worry about that. Like, I don't even need to know his answer to give you his answer. But we could ask Morgan Scalley about this after practice today. Hey, have you seen this new rule? What do you think of this new rule? Morgan Scalley will be the one that says, you know what? It's necessary. It's needed. I'm glad it's here. We need to reduce tampering, right? I know Morgan, that will be his stance. There will be somebody in the same building. There will be somebody in every other building in college football that goes, I'm glad you believe that, head coach, but like I know how we're going to get around this if we have to.
Yeah.
And that is where we have failed the student athlete, we have failed the fan, we have failed the sport world entirely by letting attorneys control everything in college sports. There is an atmosphere now where the norm in college football is to push these rules and bend these rules and break these rules as aggressively as possible and potentially deal with the fallout if your lawyer can't get you off. Like the neighborhood you live in, there's maybe one person, there's one neighbor who doesn't respect the norms, doesn't respect the laws, sees something on your porch. Hey, that's an Amazon package. I'm going to go see if that's mine. I want that maybe, right? You probably have like one, maybe two people in your neighborhood that are these types of people. Oh, they left their car window down at night. I'm going to go see if they got anything good in the glove box. Like, they're outliers in society. Oh, you left your front door open? I'm going to come in and take your TV. Those people, most people are just like, oh, man, they left their front door open. Let me close it for them. Most people in regular society are willing to follow the rules laid out, not because of enforcement, not because of fear of getting caught, but because we all have this tacit agreement that it is better to live in a society where it's not just this insane free-for-all, where we all do whatever we want, live on some hedonistic principle where it's like, I'm going to do whatever feels good. And what feels good right now is taking James's shoes. He's got that nice pair of Jordans. I've always wanted those. They're mine now. The problem in college sports is that instead of being one person in your entire neighborhood, is now 90% of the people in the neighborhood. And damn near 100% of the kids in the neighborhood. In this case, I'm talking about the student athletes. As soon as something comes up that is just like, I don't like this anymore. Morgan Scalley said I have funny haircut. I don't want to be here anymore. Then their agent, their mom, their dad, their whoever, in way more cases, in the most common cases, it's like, we can get you out of there. We can get you out of it. Xavier Lucas transferred this way. Jake Retzlaff transferred this way. His case is a little different because he didn't have the option of returning to BYU.
Not without the stiff suspension, of course.
And you just circumvent the rules. We live in a nation of laws, people. I don't want you to be the guy that drives 50 in a 65. But I don't want you to be the guy who closes his eyes and drives drunk at 90 miles an hour either. And that's where we're at with a lot of these college football coaches, administrators, recruiting coordinators, NIL people. They're just like, no, get me what I want. I want it now. I need a wide receiver. Call that wide receiver. Tell him to unenroll from his school and re-enroll here, and he's a walk-on who I am going to bankroll, and we will figure it out. And this penalty proposed by the NCAA should be front-page news on any sports outlet because 6-game suspension and 20% of a football budget is a death knell for a football season. For an individual football season, head coach being gone for 6 games and 20% of your budget being cut is a serious penalty. But most people are looking at this today. Many people in the college football world are looking at this today and going, I don't have to worry about that. Because even if we do get somebody to ghost transfer, even if we do lure somebody into an unenrollment, re-enrollment scenario, I got the attorneys that are going to make sure I don't serve that 6-game suspension. The NCAA does not scare me. When you were a little kid, James, did your parents ever tell you, like, hey, you know where the cookies are in the pantry. Do not eat those cookies. And you were just like, I'm not going to eat those cookies. I'm going to get my butt whooped if I eat those cookies. And so you didn't eat the dang cookies?
There's plenty of stuff that I, for so to speak, stayed on the straight and narrow with because I recognized, hey, my parents, whatever other authority figures, like they mean it, right? I didn't have to know what the punishment would be. They told me not to, and I know they mean it, so I'm going to not do it. Now, I'm not trying to put out there that I never broke a rule, but like I was a pretty good rule follower most of my life, pretty naive that way.
And guess what? Most of
Just
us
because
are.
of that.
Most of us are. And we could call it naivete, but it's really, in some ways it is, especially when we're talking about a little kid, don't eat the cookies.
Yeah.
Mom and dad are going to spank you if you eat the cookies. Like, it's actually just like the rules that govern our society, the bonds of just like honesty and integrity. Even people that you don't consider to be overly honest and having a ton of integrity are actually, in most cases, they're kind of following like 99% of the rules. And maybe the outlier thing is like, oh yeah, that person steals. They're a shoplifter. I don't want to encourage shoplifting, but that person is not likely also to be a murderer.
Yeah.
Right now,
I don't know, shoplifting, gateway crime.
Right now in college football, and college basketball, and college softball, and college volleyball, and college gymnastics, all those, I guess, to a lesser extent than the revenue-producing sports, it's just this free-for-all that the adults in the room, to use a term that I probably beat to death, the adults in the room are just like, I know I told you not to eat the cookies, and you were not supposed to eat the cookies, but since you needed to eat the cookies, I'm going to get an attorney to defend you and get you out of the penalty for eating the cookies.
Yeah. If they didn't, Your Honor, if they didn't want my client to eat the cookies, then they should not have told my client where the cookies are.
Exactly.
Okay.
Can you, well, Your Honor, it turns out that my client has a doctor's note here that says that the only nutrition his body can absorb is actually peanut butter Oreos. He
needs 150,000 grams of sugar daily in order to survive. Actually,
are we beasts of the field and we just want this poor child to suffer? No. He needs the peanut butter Oreos.
It's a unique condition called I need sugaritis.
Can you... I'm going back to all the scenarios in which I did something that my parents told me not to do and wondering what would have happened if they were just like, all right, here comes a spanking. And I was like, hold on. And just my attorney showed up.
Well, in some states that would be child abuse.
Mr. O'Connell, put that belt back on. Don't you dare. Your parents is like, what the heck? I mean, it's just...
ludicrous.
I am blown away. When Spence was talking about it, I was like, man, I missed that today. I'm going to have to go look at it. And then I read every piece I could find on it. And it is this massive litigation potentially against tampering in college sports. And the reaction to it from far too many people, even in the football world and in the basketball world, but the football world specifically, are just like, shrug. Don't have to worry. That sucks, man. I'll get off my high horse about it. Reminder, Big Willie's presenting sponsor of the show every single day, 1717 South Main. You want to go play a little Golden Tee? They've got that machine down there. You want to go watch UFC Fight Night, PFL Fight Night. You want to watch the latest baseball game or regular season baseball right now. Maybe you're just incredibly captivated by the ABS, and it's bringing you back to your love of baseball because you know that every ball and strike is now going to be called with more accuracy. It is sports madness with Final Four basketball coming up, NBA playoff stuff coming right around the corner. Your Utah Mammoth are going to be in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Only the second year we've had an NHL club, and we're already going to get some playoff hockey. The tickets, they're hard to get. Well, you don't need a ticket if you go down to Big Willie's and you watch it there. The people are even better than the food and better than the drinks. Incredible service. Patrick and Michelle have been great to us. They'll be great to you. Tell them OC sent you, and I promise you're going to have a great time at Big Willie's. Just don't try to hustle anybody in a game of pool, especially Gordy Chiesa. He's a shark, and he joins us next in studio. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome in Gordy Chiesa, our resident NBA guru, here in studio with us on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Gordy, long time no see. It's been 13 hours.
Yes, very much. And Sean, last night we were together at the Delta Center. Sean was a A-lister. I'm a D-lister. And we it did work out, though. And Morgan Scally was there. In case all Utah football fans, Morgan was there sitting in front row where he deserves to be. Sean and I was sitting up in the high rafters where we deserve to be.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you talk about real A-listers. You got Morgan and Spence Checketts down there courtside, and then you got me and Gordy up there in the nosebleeds.
However, our humble beginning, Sean and I, we had a good time enjoying it. And more importantly, the Jazz were competitive. Again, I know it sounds there's definitely there's a ray of hope, certainly. The Jazz played a hard-fought game. Nuggets had to win, and they did. Jamal Murray was absolutely spectacular for the Nuggets' point of view. Hey, Sean, give me the hot sauce, will you please, on my food? Because Jamal Murray last night, 37 points, 12 for 16 overall, 10 for 16 from three-point range, and including possibly a walking violation, half-court shot where he took an extra step at the end of the first quarter and made the shot go in. And he had it rolling last night. And Nikola Jokic was his sixth time in the last 7 games, a triple-double, 15 points, 7 boards, and 12 assists. However, he has 6 turnovers, which was alarming. And the Nuggets, they are a tremendous team, but they've got to play better defense, Sean. So that's not because of last night's game, just generally speaking, they've got to get better defensively with more of a focus. From the Jazz point of view, quickly, Cal Filipowski, do you realize this, Sean and James and all listeners, that Filipowski has averaged 20 points a game, 10 rebounds, 6 assists in the last 4 games, including last night, 25 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 assists. So Cal Filipowski in that role right now, so next year's role is going to be altered, but he can play in the NBA and be an off-the-bench contributor.
I'm glad you mentioned Jokic. I mean, there's a lot of people in the building last night to see one of the greats. He's going to be one of the all-time greats when it's all said and done. A lot of people in the building, even Jazz fans, are like, I got to go to a Nuggets game, see somebody like that play. And we were talking, he had this beautiful no-look pass all the way across court into the corner for a 3-point shot that is just unnatural for a big man to have that kind of court vision and timing and things like that on his passes, and that's part of the reason he had 12 assists in this game. Later, after you and I had separated, he had a play that was on the exact opposite end of the spectrum for me, and I want to know how you handle this if you're a Nuggets coach and if you're a Nuggets teammate. Look, I don't think the outcome of this game was really in doubt for most people, but the Jazz were rallying in the fourth quarter. They were playing hard. They were hustling. Jokic made this horrifically bad outlet pass after a rebound, and I think it was sensible. He just threw it to the opposition, right? And fine, that happens. Whatever. When you're better more than when you're good more than you're bad, you can deal with the turnover here and again. But then he groaned. He just put his arms and he stood there. Gordy, his feet did not move again after he threw the turnover pass. And the Jazz just fast break right behind him and score a bucket. And
right.
he's standing there looking at the Jumbotron, lamenting his bad pass instead of trying to correct the mistake. And I was like, that is bad body language. That is a bad example of how you're supposed to play basketball. No doubt he's one of the best in the game, one of the best in the world, one of the best ever when it's all said and done, like I just mentioned. But that right there, how do you react to it if you're on his team and you're his coach? I couldn't believe we saw that.
Yeah, first disappointing. But here's the thing about it, teaching point. When you inbound the ball, don't throw the ball blindly inside. The first thing, inbound the ball always with 2 hands. So, Sean, if you had to fake it, the ball's still in your hand. He did one like this. He nonchalantly threw the ball into the wrong team, Sensabaugh, who was very alert. Sensabaugh also, if you notice what he did, he was crouched. He was low. And so he didn't see him, meaning Jokic, and he threw the ball with one hand versus two, and that was a steal. That's bad. The worst part about it, your point is well taken, where he had cement feet, he didn't even move. He didn't even try to make a play on the ball to try to rectify it. At that moment, he was playing backwards instead of forward. And even the great players like Jokic, they do that. It's uncalled for. It's unnecessary. I'm sure they'll show that in the film today as far as the session to show that to teach everybody inbound the ball, not blindly, but with two hands. Sensabaugh, he was alert. He made a good play on the ball, and it kept the Jazz momentum going. That game was hard fought till the end. And the last 2.5 minutes of the game, that's when the Nuggets subbed out. So you can learn from it. No one's perfect, but the better teams have less. Sean, I call that self-inflicted turnovers.
Sure,
it wasn't the defense; it's him.
So, John Conchar was hustling all over the place last night, right? Good to see. I think the fans reacted well to it. Obviously, there's some Jazz fans, especially in the building, that reward effort. Team's down like 12. Conchar makes a hustle play steal, and everyone gets on their feet. It's like I was truly impressed last night with the fans as much as I was with the Jazz team. But for a guy like Conchar, he's not getting a lot of minutes in a normal season. He's not getting a lot of minutes on a normal team that's not in a tank. These minutes that he's showing that kind of effort, he's showing that good stuff. What can it do for him as his NBA career moves forward, with the Jazz or without, right? Because he's not going to play 29 minutes in an average NBA game, probably ever, when a team's trying to win. But when you're putting good tape out there in these tanking efforts, what does it do for a player?
It's his value. So all the teams are watching the players perform, especially on non-winning teams end of the season. Who plays to win? Who plays for themselves? And Conchar plays for the group, and that's why he's an impressive guy in that role. And that's the key word as far as what is his role for the Jazz. His contract is team-friendly, Sean. It's $6.5 million next year. It's guaranteed in the NBA lexicon. That's a very good contract for the Jazz. And so I'm assuming that they'll keep him here unless there's some sort of mega trade, Sean, on July 1st with, we'll say, Walker Kessler, where the Jazz might say hypothetically, just sign and trade him with other pieces. They add another elite star player. So Conchar would be valuable with other teams also. With the Jazz in that role, he'll excel in it. He hustles. There's nothing like guys that play hard. I always ask this question. Playing hard is a skill, just like shooting, dribbling, passing, rebounding. Because if it wasn't a skill, everyone would have it. And that's why John Conchar, those guys are valuable to the Jazz in particular, but other teams also. They add value every day. And that's what you want to do as a professional athlete. You want to add value to your resume of why you should have me on your team and on your roster.
One more home game this season for the Utah Jazz. It's Houston, Oklahoma City, New Orleans on the road. They're back home April 10th against Memphis. Then they finish on the road against the Lakers. So you've got one more home game. And, I mean, I imagine that home game is going to look like a lot of the games that the Delta Center did this year. But what's the mentality of a coaching staff, a staple on the team, maybe even members of the front office, knowing that you're going to shut the lights out for one last time against Memphis, but then when you flip them back on again next year, everyone's going to expect you to win instead of what these last 4 years have looked like. So what does that Memphis game look like with all that in mind?
One, the finale of the season, and two, we're going to start over fresh, starting literally when the players exit the locker room. I say this all the time. It's very interesting that these same 15 players will never be in the same locker room, Sean, and maybe in the same state ever again together. It's pretty powerful that these guys were your teammates and floor mates, and you might never see them again literally in the same room as a collective group. So from management's point of view, they're going to thank all the players for their efforts. They're going to talk to the players about what they should work on. Most times, usually speaking, Sean, with a young team, the management and the workout people give the players usually 3 weeks on their own. So, for example, they wouldn't start working guys out until probably, we'll say, early May 10th, May 15th, right around there. And then it'll start again as far as with their core group, as far as keep working them out, as far as trying to improve their skill level. Because the way the NBA calendar is that the playoffs start, Sean, on Saturday, April 18th. And the playing tournament starts on Tuesday, April 14th to Friday, April 17th. But in jazz basketball, Sean, this is Mother's Day. And Sean, I know everybody loves their mother, whether they're in heaven or not right now, is that Sunday, May 10th. But in jazz basketball, that's the NBA draft lottery selection order. So that's when the Jazz find out when they are picking. And that's going to be a huge factor as far as that. So management is going to work with the players as far as what they have to work on. The coaches get also well-deserved rest for a few weeks. Then everybody in the personal side is going to start evaluating the draft.
All right, we've got Gordy Chiesa all the way until about 12:30. So I'm going to try to stay on our clocks, maybe for the first time in several months. Plenty more to talk about in the NBA. We had a revelation. We gave some sound to you yesterday about Tom Izzo talking with the Suns about a head coaching job. Plenty of things that we need to pick Gordy's brain about. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show with Gordy Chiesa sitting in for the next 45 minutes or so on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. We got Prince Bringing us back in on the radio, we've got Bret Hart. No, that's not Bret Hart. Who's it? Bret Michaels. We got Bret Michaels on the Pat McAfee show on the TV in front of us. Apparently, he's performing live at the NFL draft. I want to know how many guys that are being drafted into the NFL have ever even heard of Bret Michaels. What a wild choice by the NFL. Shout out to Rock of Love, that weird dating reality show that he did a long time ago. That would have been 20-ish years ago now. Fantastic stuff. All right, Gordy Chase is here in studio with us. Plenty more NBA to get to, but we also have to give you a PGA Tour leaderboard update, the Valero Texas Open. Our updates are brought to you by our friends over at Uinta Golf. James, what's going on at the Valero Texas Open?
Will Zalatoris is your leader, a.k.a. Happy Gilmore's caddy.
Obviously.
He's at 6 under. 5 under, tied for second is – there's 3 guys tied for second, including our guy, Rose Park's own, Tony Finau, 1 shot off the lead at 5 under. Let's see, Austin Smotherman, also the Smotherman, also in that group. Tied for 5th. There are some big names like Tommy Fleetwood in there. He's in the group tied for 5th at 4 under, 2 shots off the lead. And then rounding out the top 10, you've got Kevin Streelman, Siwoo Kim at 3 under. So it's a tight leaderboard so far here at the Valero Texas Open, including, and good for our guy Tony Finau. He's had a bit of a rough go of it here, at least in the first round. He's not just in striking distance of making the weekend. He is 1 shot off the lead through 11 holes. So good for Tony.
Right now is the perfect time to go grab your new footwear for the upcoming golf season. You went to Golf by Worldwide Golf, running shoe sales, spikes or spikeless, discounts on pretty much everything they've got in stock right now. So check out You Into Golf all up and down the Wasatch Front. Tell them OC and Gordy sent you. Gordy Chase is here in studio with us. Tom Izzo said that he and Matt Ishbia had some serious conversations about Izzo jumping to the pro ranks and taking the Phoenix Suns job. It's always revisionist history when you hear about these things after the fact, but what do you think of that possibility, Gordy?
Well, the first thing is that Matt played for Tom Izzo back in 2000 as a walk-on player. So Tom coached him in college, and it could have happened. That I'm sure the job was offered. They gave the job to Jordan Ott, who's done a tremendous job for the Suns. The Suns right now are 42-34. They're the 7th seed, trying to climb into the 6th seed for the playoffs. All right, so this is the great debate, Sean, for the last 50 years. Why do so few college coaches do well when they get a job as a head coach in the NBA? And I listed just 5 reasons why. One is the length of schedule. There's 82 games, and these games most of them are absolutely grueling. And so there's no let-up. It's a marathon. It is not a sprint. And so college coaches, most times now in this generation, will be roughly 35 to 37 games. But 82 games, plus usually there's 6 preseason games, so we're talking 88 games. And if you're a good team, you go into the playoffs, usually playing 90 games. One time, Sean, in Jazz basketball, the Jazz played back in 1997 season and 1998. We played 110 games each season, 110, which shows you how crazy it is. So the length of schedule is a factor as far as a coaching adjusting, as far as college coach. The second one is team practices. So you practice absolutely a lot more, but also the practices aren't as long, because there's so much physical wear and tear on the players that as a college coach, you've got to readjust your mentality where practice is so important. It is, but you can't have it for long practices because the players, they're mentally and physically, you've got to keep their energy up as far as playing. Next one is, with that also said, now you're in charge of roughly 25 people around you in the program, meaning assistant coaches, video people, the medical staff, as far as trainers. And now you've got to understand that each one has a different component, how they view it, and you're in charge of them. So that's a factor as far as how do you temper them as far as getting everybody on the same part of it. Next part, travel plane rides, that you live on a plane, and that you've got to understand about the mentality, the rigors of travel. So you travel internationally, you know what it's like. Picture being an NBA player where you're a star player. We say Victor Wembanyama, all right, whose body frame is angular with those high hips, and he's playing, we'll say, 4 games in 7 days, and including 3 plane rides, and that you can't practice hard with those people, and you've got to give them the proper rest, both mentally and physically. And the last part about it, as far as the 5th reason why often head coaches in college don't make really successful pro coaches, is that, oh, by the way, in college, you're the star of the franchise, meaning the team. You're the head coach. But in the NBA, there's only one star, and that's the players. Those 2 or 3 main guys in your team, they are the stars of the team. Jerry Sloan used to say this all the time, Sean. In a perfect NBA team would be the team is NBA champions. The photo of the team is the 12 players and no coaches in the photo. No
Come
coaching.
on.
Yes. Sean said it for decades.
I believe it. I believe he said that. But coaching matters.
It does matter. But with the star players, give them their due. So the team photo, NBA champions, is just the players, not the coaches involved. That's a mentality. You have to readjust. Some say, I understand it, but they don't. The most recent one right now is Billy Donovan. So Billy Donovan, who I coached at Providence, so I know him since he's 20 years young. He's being reported, Sean, right now to be the coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. He's denying it. I get it. I understand you have to under contract with the Bulls. The Bulls right now are heading to their 4th straight losing season, even though Billy Donovan is a good coach. Back-to-back championships at the Florida Gators, 06 and 07. He's going to get hired by the Carolina Tar Heels. Even Billy would say that it's a tough adjustment going from college basketball. Even though you coach a lot of guys, they're going to be in the pros in your college team. It's the whole thing around you that's overwhelming.
Gordy, how much variation is there still in today's NBA around how teams manage all of that stuff you just mentioned, right? The workload, the travel, I guess the dynamics between player and coaches. We have so much history now in the NBA of what has worked and whose philosophies have worked. You would think that if you got a head coaching job in the NBA, you'd just be like, all right, I'm going to replicate as much of what Greg Popovich did as possible. I'm going to do as much of what Phil Jackson did or Jerry Sloan did as possible. How uniform is it from team to team, coach to coach, that you handle all these things, these logistics and the practices and the shoot-arounds in a similar fashion?
Well, the coach in college was successful doing it a certain way, and it's hard to have people alter some of their success by giving it by a different level now. And so they say often that I'll adjust, but sometimes it takes them a year or two to adjust. And by that time, Sean, they've lost part of their star players as far as believing in them. And that's where it gets very interesting. So it's better to be over ready, Sean, any job, than to be under ready. And that's why it's critical that they hire people that have been at that level most times. Sean, I say this often, whether I was a college coach or whether I was in the NBA, is that when you hire somebody for a new job, you get hired to be a head coach in say college basketball. You're only allowed to hire, I say, only one person that wasn't at that level to begin with. So if you're a college coach, we'll say Alex Jensen. There's some terrific high school coach out there that you really think is a tremendous coach. Great. Hire him. Junior college coach and/or hire him. But you've got to hire the other 3 or 4 people that are full-time. They have to already be at that level already to be hit the floor running. If it's a steep learning curve, it affects everybody. In the NBA, the same thing also. You're a star player. You become a head coach in the NBA. Someone like Jason Kidd, who also coached when I coached the Nets, is that his first job was with Milwaukee, then the Nets, and then the Mavericks. And so he had to hire people around him that were assistant coaches that were already in the NBA from a coaching philosophy. That, these drills that we always do all the time, I think they're successful. Whatever drills are, as far as the teaching component of it, and then also understanding the length of the game. That the game is much longer than college basketball. So you've got to understand the dynamics of it. It's really humbling, Sean.
All right.
How about in the NFL? First-time coach.
Ooh. This is okay. So we've talked about this.
Versus being a coordinator.
First time being a coordinator. First time being an NFL coach. First time being a position coach in the NFL. You get these. It's the ladder that most people have to climb, right? But oftentimes, not all that often, you'll get a college coach who gets the opportunity. You think they should keep mostly an NFL staff.
Yes.
Don't bring the guys that were with you in college that helped you be successful in college because it's that different of a dynamic with pro athletes.
Yes. Yeah, you could hire only a few, but don't bring the whole staff. Do not. Even though you feel much more comfortable. Again, it's cruel. Professional sports, they say, we'll be patient. Oh, really? We'll be patient. Oh, really? We'll be patient until what? You suddenly what? That you're not winning and you think you should. And the reason why is because you don't understand and implement the dynamics of what it takes to win at that level. Even though it's still the same game, it's still the same sport, but not the same game. It's much faster, in the NBA basketball, it's much faster. It's more physical. There's better players around you. Sean, often in the NBA, most of the young star players never heard of the guys, other teams' bench players, and they can't believe how good that guy was. That guy's really good. Where did he play at? What school did he go at? Where's he from? And then suddenly you play against him, and he realizes, wait a second, this guy's coming after me.
So I'm looking at to compare and contrast and try to illustrate your point. I was like, okay, famous college coach, got an NFL job. What did his staff look like, right? The one with the most obvious local connections. When Urban Meyer had his failed experiment in the NFL, what did his staff look like? And he was about 50-50, so he probably brought in too many college coaches, in your opinion.
Probably.
Interesting.
Yeah, probably. Because, again, Sean, the learning curve is steep.
Yeah.
Even though you know the game, like you do know the game, you know football, you know basketball, but there's this different dynamics involved. And the other guys you play against are always good. There's no let up. Sean, like last night, you and I were together. You can make a narrative if the Jazz made a few more defensive stops and wasn't Jamal Murray having a heat wave game, the Jazz with their 10-day contract guys could have won that game. If 3 or 4 things went their way, tilted their way during the game, suddenly the Nuggets would lose that game. An illustration is that even with lesser teams and guys that really aren't on everybody's radar, they're still good players. And that's what's so humbling about it.
All right, we got to take a break. Gordy's with us for another 27 minutes, so we're going to maximize that as much as we can. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, one of the many reasons I love talking to Gordy Chiesa is he always brings a different angle to look at things. He always brings in something that we haven't considered, whether it's in basketball or elsewhere. During the break, we were just talking about the NFL head coaching world, and you've got a first-year head coach this year with the Cleveland Browns, who Todd Monken is the first-time head coach at age 59 when he was hired. He'll be 60 when he coaches his first NFL game, a long-time assistant, right? And you're like, oh, well, why wouldn't the NFL hire more guys that are experienced like this? Well, you're either like a career assistant and you can work in the league until you're in your 70s, or you're given head coaching opportunities when you're young for the most part. And actually, the individuals who have been hired for the first-time head coaching opportunity after age 50, so you're an over 50 rookie, only 3 of those guys in the NFL have finished their careers as head coaches with winning records. The combined win total, regular season win total, for all these 50-year-old coaching rookies is 333 wins, 424 losses, a 44% win percentage, which is obviously below the standard that you want for an NFL franchise. So, interesting.
It always is, and it tells a story. And that's why franchises are always trying to do both. Hire that younger assistant coach and promote him because he's a great communicator, or the older veteran that's been around for a long time but isn't totally set in his ways, and that there's more steadiness about him as far as personality. I just described right now, really showing Michigan football right now, what they did. They hired Kyle, who is absolutely steady. What you see is what you get. There's no absolutely gray area, and Michigan is all on about that because of the previous coach. It didn't work out. Some self-inflicted.
You know, I was talking with an assistant coach at the University of Utah at Tuesday's practice, and we were talking about the stylistic differences. And, you know, he kind of had a laugh about what Morgan Scalley just has so much on his plate now. And he was like, I could never do. And I was like, well, hold on. You're probably going to be a head coach someday. He's like, yeah, I guess so. And that's someone who's right now in college football, it's shifted very, very young, right? So you're talking about when you round into like your mid-30s, you're probably starting to campaign for head coaching opportunities. It used to be mid-40s or 50s before you got those. This is a guy that's now in his mid-40s, and I'm like, man, I've watched his entire career, and I've thought someday he's going to be a head coach, and I'm looking at it now and being like, you're about to age out of having a first-time head coaching opportunity. He's never been a head coach before. I was like, that's actually pretty crazy, because as a human being, he's still a young person. He's a young guy. He's got all his life left, you know what I mean? But in the coaching world, we've swung so young now that if you don't have that first-time head coaching opportunity when you're in your mid-40s, you're starting to be the upper end of that spectrum.
You mentioned before, the average age of an NFL head coach right now is age 47.
Yeah.
And so that shows you that that's a young person, age 47. However, it probably has at least minimum 25 years of experience as far as coaching football or coaching basketball.
Sure.
So you're 22, 23 years old. You didn't play in the NFL, didn't play in the Canadian League and the NBA, didn't play in Europe. Then suddenly you started your coaching career as far as learning the craft. Coaching is a craft. You know, there's no place to go to learn how to be a coach. Do you realize that? There's no, okay, I'm going to major in coaching in college. Really? Like what school has that? And so it's really trial by error. And the more people you work with when you're a younger person in the profession, you get a whole galaxy of things that you like or you don't like. And that's why, and later on, you take from everybody what you learned about and put in your own recipe for success.
All right, I'm going to ask you an unfair question right now, right? You get dropped into a team president, team owner, general manager role, whatever. They say, Gordy, we need to hire a new head coach. And we've got these 2 candidates for you. One of them played 10 years in the NBA or professionally, if you want to say Europe, that's fine. And he's been coaching for 10 years since playing for 10 years. The other guy started off as a coach and only a coach. He played in college, whatever. He's got 20 years. So they both have 20 years of experience at the professional level, but one of them has been a 20-year coach, climbed the ladder as an assistant. He was cutting tape way back in the day, whatever. The other guy played 10 years in the league and now is a 10-year coach. You only get to choose one. What's the better hire?
The first guy, the player that played 10 years in the NBA and was coached for 10 years, because then why? He has street cred.
Okay.
With the players. In other words, if you haven't played in the NBA or the NFL, and you have to how do you get street cred with the players? You have to be unbelievable teacher of the game. Like, in other words, you're one of the best teachers in the world of basketball, and just as important, you've got to be able to talk the talk and communicate. And if you're a non-NBA or non-NFL former player, that's how you thrive in professional coaching. So that scenario, I would go for the first option. Not to discredit person 20 years in the NBA or the NFL as assistant coach. I'm going with somebody that had a player's thing. This generation is much different now, Sean. It's different, and it's going to get even crazier with AI coming along someday. It's there right now. So the ability to communicate with younger people, and how do you do that? One is being a world-class listener. Listening is a sign of intelligence. And two, that the players feel, generally speaking, that you really care about them as people. That's what I call sharing and caring. You share your knowledge of what you know, but you care about them as an individual player. And that's how you're able to succeed. Plus, also, the players have to believe in you of what you're saying. It sounds simple, Sean, but you know something? It gets very cloudy in the interpretation.
All right, back to the current state of things in the NBA with the playoffs approaching, play-in tournament right around the corner. Are the Golden State Warriors handling Steph Curry correctly?
Yes. Yes, they are. They're sitting him out. They're going to try to play him possibly the last, Sean, 2 games just to give him some reps in a game as far as the speed of his Steph Curry, the world's greatest shooter, which we're talking about, giving him some reps. And I know that they're not going to, if he doesn't play in a game, the last few games, he will not play in the playing tournament. You can't do that to him because there's such a factor as far as getting some competition in the present tense right now. So he's right now. Sean's talking about the Warriors right now, the 10th seed. They can't go any worse than that. They're 36-40. They're going to play 2 road games probably against the Blazers on the road, and probably the loser of the Clippers Suns in the play-in tournament. And so they're going to try to get some juice with their team. It sounds really weird saying it, but Sean, the Warriors have actually somewhat overachieved. Without Jimmy Butler and those guys, and without Steph, they're 10th seed. That's where they should be. So he's going to try to play the injury right now. What he has right now as far as injury is a condition, all right? There's so much wear and tear on that small body of Stephen Curry, and there's so many jumps and that jump shots in his legs where his body is slightly breaking down. And what he has right now is right knee swelling and soreness based on what? Thousands of games played at the highest level. It happens, Sean. He's 38 years old.
I mean, I got out of competition at age 35 because I wanted to quit while I was ahead. You don't like seeing, and you hope it doesn't happen to anyone. And obviously the smaller bodies, I think, handle it a little bit better. But it's one of the worst things when you watch your heroes age as athletes, right? You see a guy that you watched in the NBA, especially like a big 7-footer now in his 50s, and you watch him trying to move around, and you're like, oh, my gosh, what did you do to yourself? I mean, we all love the late, great Bill Walton, right? And he maintained this incredible positivity and this really sunny disposition, but he had to bring a special chair around with him to do those broadcasts for all those years because he couldn't sit in a normal-sized chair. He couldn't bend his knees down that far without having himself get all locked up, mess with his knees, mess with his back, all that. So, yeah, I mean, Steph Curry is not a giant in the same way, but that's a lot of up and down. And even those of us mere mortals who haven't been jumping for our entire adult life get the wear and tear.
Add to that, Bill Walton had 22 surgeries on his body during his career, at both his back, also his ankles, and his feet. And so that's what reason why, and it's all connected. As far as we have injuries, lower injuries are created by so much stress and wear and tear on your knees and below.
Did you ever have a player dealing with a collapsed lung as you're rounding into the playoffs? Cade Cunningham with Detroit has a pneumothorax, a collapsed lung. Now, look, sports injuries are serious enough by themselves. When we're talking about internal organs, something as important as your lung, and I know doctors are great, medicine is fantastic, and they find relatively routine recoveries here, but this is a professional athlete, and the lungs are this engine that drives everything in your exertion. So have you ever dealt with this? Have you ever seen teams deal with this?
Yeah, I've not dealt with it, but C.J. McCollum had a collapsed lung a few years ago. So he was the most recent NBA player, and he missed literally half the season. And so with Cade Cunningham, they are hoping to get him back in the first round of the playoffs. But again, the doctors will absolutely use very good precaution. If he's not ready, he won't play in that first round. And speaking of the Pistons, they're in first place, 55-21. They won the Central Division title this year for the first time in 18 years since 2008. And do you realize that the Pistons 2 years ago had the worst record in basketball, where they only won 14 games? So, Sean, they went from 14 wins to now 55 victories as we speak in a 2-year period, led by Cade Cunningham and led by this young superstar also, Jalen Duren, and all the other supporting cast. And they've done a tremendous job. And now the point of reckoning now is with Cade Cunningham. I think they can get past the first round, but they need Cunningham in the second round to play against probably either the Cavs or the Hawks in the second round.
Gordy, what's your list today?
My list today, it's a short one also. And before I forget, Sean, we got so much feedback from the list the other day about that short list about the triple crown of basketball.
Yeah.
And people were talking about it. The Adult Sun last night, they were asking me about, what about so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so? And I had to tell them, well, they're right, but they weren't Olympian or they weren't a NCAA champion.
That was our trivia question. Somebody won Weezer tickets because of the knowledge that you gave.
I'm glad I could help out them and Weezer. But helping out right now, here's the Korea top 12 winningest NBA players combining regular and postseason victories. The most games ever won individually by an NBA player. What are some of the attributes? 1, you've got to be a skilled basket maker. 2, health and longevity persona. So that's why you've got to have a long career. 3, you need other talented floor mates to help you win. 4, generally speaking, you're an elite late game closer. And 5, you got to be mentally strong. A dozen of the greatest winners of all time in NBA basketball. Number 12, Scottie Pippen played in 946 victories. Number 11 all time, Shaquille O'Neal, 948. Number 10 of all time, Kobe Bryant, 971. Number 9, Dirk Nowitzki, 985. Number 8, interestingly, I didn't know this, Sean, Derek Fisher played in 1,014 victories. Number 7, I worked him out twice with the Jazz one time, Sean. The Jazz didn't draft him. He went to the Spurs. What were the Jazz thinking at that time? Front office, Tony Parker, 1,029 victories. Number 6, I coached this guy for 16 years, John Stockton, 1,042 victories. Number 5, his trusted sidekick, also former Jazz man, Karl Malone, 1,050 victories. Number 4 all time, Robert Parrish, 1,121. Number 3, the trusted sidekick of Tony Parker, that is Tim Duncan, 1,158. The last 2. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, second all-time, 1,228, and the number 1 winner of the most games ever won in NBA basketball between the regular season and postseason. He plays for the Lakers. He's still going strong at age 41. He's going to add to this is LeBron James. He's been in victory-wise 1,229 games. Thus, that's my winning list of today.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you one more NBA question. You already mentioned, you've got the NBA draft lottery coming up and the Final Fours this weekend. We'll get to that here in just a second. How set are teams on their opinion of players at this juncture of the process?
Not at all.
Okay.
No, not at all. No. There's still debate. Oh, very much. Yes. It's ongoing. It never stops.
There's, especially with that top 3, 4, 5 where the Utah Jazz are projected to be, although I guess 7 is the most likely statistical outcome for your upcoming draft pick, but there's still a lot of potential movement rolling around in there.
Oh, very much. Yes, there are. And that's good. It's healthy. Is that everybody has their voice and an opinion, and then the decision makers are going to take it all together, and then they're going to decide. And it's absolutely critical in Jazz basketball who they take and the other teams also. Because you hit the home run. Like, example, I know we're up at the clock right now. The Spurs, Stephen Castle in number 4, home run, and Victor Wembanyama, home run. Back-to-back years, home runs.
Final Four.
Yes.
Before I let you go, who advances?
UConn and Arizona.
All right. UConn, Arizona, Natty. Let's go.
Yeah, but remember, Sean, can I quote right now Charles Dickens?
Sure.
If you don't mind, from the Tales of Two Cities. Sean, my bracket was the best of times. It was the worst of times. So please do not go by Gordon Chiesa as far as NCAA basketball. Do not. Trust me, do not.
It's the number one testament we have to present to you how your bracket, it's such a wild attempt to try to play guesswork. The guy who knows way more about basketball than any of us is he's down near the bottom of our rankings in our ESPN $700 million bracket challenge.
That's where I belong. He's talking about me, and it's where I belong. And I get too emotional in my picks because I have a hard time going against coaches that I like their families. I'm Sean. I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah, that's fair.
Part of my I know the wife and the kids, the grandkids. I can't do it morally. Yikes.
You can track your own bracket, see where you stand right now relative to everyone else at ESPN700sports.com. The $1 Million Bracket Challenge is brought to you by Big Willie's, Game Day Men's Health, Intermountain Bobcat, Budweiser, International Sportsman's Expo, and the Utah RV Super Show. Gordy, always great having you here.
Thanks, Sean. Peace out.
Gordy Chiesa, best in the business, our resident NBA guru. We've got a daily dump. Zach Partridge still going to join us. Roxy Bernstein coming at 1:30. He's on the call for the Utah Mammoth tonight. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show here on the Daily Dump, brought to you by our friends at Valley Plumbing. The truck with the duck now can handle any plumbing issues you've got. The heating and air, they handle it as well. Look for the truck with the duck. Go to valleyplumbing.com. You don't even need to make a phone call. You can schedule an appointment. You can get your problem taken care of by typing in what your problem is and a time that works for you to have them send out a technician. It's really fantastic, painless, easy process. All right. Lots of stuff to get to here in the Daily Dump, a potpourri of stories. I'll start with positive news. This is good news. Puka Nacua has checked into rehab. You don't ever love the idea that someone needs it, but look, rehab, there's some real science behind it. There's obviously huge numbers of positive outcomes for people. Sometimes it happens the first session. Sometimes it happens when you check yourself in for the third or fourth time, but it is clearly a step in a positive direction for Puka Nacua in making sure that he can get himself on the right side of things. His attorney mentioned that, he's taking accountability for his actions and he wants to improve his behavior in all areas. The Rams were asked about it. They're showing support to Puka. Les Snead, the general manager, says he was asked about, well, are you worried about the contract? This is a kid who's due for like a $200 million plus contract. Are you worried because of his erratic behavior? And Snead said, you know what? We're going to worry about the human first instead of the contract, which you'd love to hear. Whether it's genuine or not, you could probably question, but that's awesome to hear a general manager talk about the person first. So congrats to Puka and whoever helped him get into this. That's the right decision to make. Get yourself cleaned up and figure it out. The Kansas Bill Self saga has been decided at least for one more year. Bill Self told Kansas and everyone who is paying attention that he has renewed clarity. He wants to coach another year at least. And so that's what he will do. Obviously, if you're Kansas and you have a multiple-time national champion head coach, you let him stay for as long as he wants to stay. Right? Right? That's what you do with coaches like that? I don't know how many of you are watching baseball yet. I've told you that I myself usually don't get overly dialed in at this point in the season. But the highlights, at least, in the storylines, if Major League Baseball was looking to institute ABS, their automated balls and strikes, they were looking to bring the computers in to help make the calls more accurate. I don't know how much they thought this unintended consequence, or maybe it is a fully intended consequence. I don't know if they anticipated how much we would be talking about the use of technology and what the ABS did in certain games. It took us all of 9 games into the Major League Baseball season for the final out, the ultimate outcome of the game, to be the result of a challenged pitch. Rangers-Orioles, 2-2 count. Looks like it's maybe a little high and outside. Catcher says, nope, that's a strike. You go to the system. Right there inside the top corner of the square. Game over. Now, because of this, you're going to have the opposite side too, right? Where batter thought that was ball 3 coming in. Thought the game was going to continue. Catcher said, nope. Umpire ultimately says nope, and catcher gets the call, runs out to congratulate the pitcher. Now we win, okay? Yay, game's over. Awesome, wonderful. You are going to get at some point, and maybe we thought it would happen halfway through the like 3 games from now, you're going to get a scenario in which a pitcher throws a ball he thinks is the final strike of the game. Out number 27. This is it. We're done. Everyone starts celebrating. Guy gets punched out. Yay! And then the batter goes, hold on. I don't think the game's over.
Little helmet tap.
Challenge. I don't like the way these guys are celebrating.
Not
Challenge.
so fast, my friend.
Yeah, I don't think so, guys. And then the umpire, after, by the way, doing the full, because you are bringing out your best punch out in the final out of the game. This is the ultimate outcome. This is the final decision, right? Steve. Pitchers going bananas, catchers jumping up and down, Manners coming out of the bullpen, spitting a whole mouthful of seeds. They think it's done. And then the batter goes, nope, wait a second. I don't know why I make the batter the annoying person here, but I've chosen to.
He's the actually annoying guy.
I don't think so, guys. And then you go to the system, and the ABS says, no, actually, there was a ball. The inning could continue for like another 7 batters. That is going to be weird to see. Game over. No, it's not. Roxy Bernstein's going to join us in about an hour. I'm going to ask him about this because he calls Major League Baseball games. He calls a ton of college baseball games as well. He's going to have to be involved in one of these scenarios, maybe multiple scenarios.
It's just as, if not more awkward, maybe a little less awkward in that range for the play-by-play guy. And this isn't a new thing, by the way. In football and basketball especially, play-by-play guys make big calls. We heard, like, for example, the UConn game winner, if that had happened at the buzzer, you hear Ian Eagle do the exact same giant call, and then replay, let's say hypothetically replay says, his fingertip was still on the ball. They have to redo after there was no momentum. Like it's been 10 minutes oftentimes. The crowd is restless. They're like, we're not into this anymore. And they have to they have to summon the same kind of energy. Baseball is going to have to do, and they've had to do the same thing with the challenge system they've had so far. But this is something totally different for baseball that we've never seen before. It's gonna be awkward for everybody.
There's gonna be some awkward moments, and I just can't imagine the smugness that you experience when you're either the catcher correcting the umpire's call, or you're the pitcher correcting the umpire's call, or you're the batter correcting the umpire's call.
And there's the smudgeness.
Just be like, oh, look at that. You thought that was a strike? I don't think so, buddy.
Not so fast, my friend.
That's a ball. Here's the thing. I enjoy the conversations we're having around this right now. I am going to tire of them in about 20 games. It's going to be one of these things where, gosh, dang it.
And then we'll have the energy for them again come playoff time and be tired after like maybe a game.
And here's the thing. If you are a home plate umpire in Major League Baseball, enjoy 2026. Your job is gone after this.
You think so?
I don't foresee a scenario in which you just, for the sake of tradition, keep trotting out home plate umpires when, even though the ABS system is showing that they do a really, really good job.
When they're off, it's typically by percentage point, by like less than 2 inches or something.
They're not off very often relative to the number of pitches in a game and the number of pitches that have been thrown so far in Major League Baseball. We're already in the multiple thousands, right? And there's been plenty of successful challenges, but their percentage is very, very, very high. And when they do get it wrong, quote unquote wrong, where it doesn't, meet the little outline, the little artificial outline on your screen, it's usually by fractions of an inch, right? Which, again, like, that's just it has been for years and years. That's just baseball, Major League Baseball, though, if you're handing the ultimate authority to a machine, which they already have done, they're not going to just keep employing people for no reason.
Counterpoint.
Okay.
Because it's very logical argument you bring, but counterpoint. Tennis still has chair umpires and line judges, and tennis has been doing basically the same. They've used basically the same system to challenge whether balls are in or out. So that tennis is not as big a deal. It's not as visible of a product sports-wise, particularly in this country. So you could still be right about that because we just care more about baseball than we do about tennis.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why some of that tradition, that human element has survived.
Well, it's a really good counterpoint, actually, because there are plenty of sports, right? Like the NHL doesn't need a referee to tell you that the puck went into the goal. They don't need that. Sensors, chips, instant replay, you don't need it. But we use it. We still use it. Now, those referees also have other functions. Home plate umpires and line judges in tennis, chair judges, whatever, they don't. Volleyball, same thing. That's their whole thing.
And technology could have replaced them completely.
You're right.
Decades ago, right?
You're right. So
maybe
you
they
bring up a really good
survive.
point.
Maybe they survive because they've seen that we can still have these humans in charge.
And maybe
I don't know.
the tradition in baseball is just so seeped in and so ingrained and so strong that Major League Baseball itself was just going to be like, hold on. I know it's a lot more efficient. I know it's smoother. I know it's more accurate. I know it's cheaper. But umpires in baseball, it's like Cracker Jacks in baseball. Okay?
Yeah,
it's the seventh inning strict. It's just like, I hope you're right.
Yeah.
But if I'm a home plate umpire, I am shaking in my boots. And I'm just like, I hope they give me opportunities at first base, which they do. They rotate them.
Which, by the way,
If
they do get rid of home plate umpires, and the reason why your point is so well made, even though I have said there's examples of other sports where they still use humans when they could have gotten rid of them, is because they also have taken away the ultimate final authority on whether a guy was safe or out. And you could just be like, eye in the sky sees everything. We don't need someone there. So they've already been chopped at the knees with that, with the replay rules preceding this. And now this is another blow to them. So
you're actually convincing me though that it's going to stay because the drama, even of like the replay review, the play at the plate, the moment, the punch out or
think
not.
Think about Blue Jays, Dodgers Game 7, Kiner Falefa. Did he get a smidgen of his cleat on the plate? But the call on the field was out. You can't really tell. I was saying, you know what? I could be convinced that he did touch the plate before the ball got there.
Can you imagine? And you're bringing up great points here. Can you imagine if you go to replay, because replay sees everything except when it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if there was no call on the field?
Yeah.
Because that's what we defer to when you don't have a good replay angle. It's not incontrovertible evidence. It's not irrefutable that you got to overturn here. Imagine if there's nothing to overturn. If it's just like, I don't know. If there's just a machine with its gears spinning, just like error. I cannot see the plate.
I mean, that's when I guess AI says, I can make a ruling here.
Yeah, but you'd be so mad.
You would be so mad.
You'd be so mad. The only thing that could be better though than home plate umpires is if you had a robot umpire that was just doing the exact same thing that ABS is doing right now.
You mean actual robo-umps, not the nickname for this system? That
like an actual, like, physical robot out there, okay? And it's like, strike.
Some built in Japan, no doubt.
Ball 3. Strike 2. And then when invariably there is some disagreement and a manager is just bored sitting in the dugout, they come out. We wouldn't feel bad if the human manager ended up taking out their anger and frustration on some robotic umpire to where it's just like smashed to pieces with a baseball bat. You're out of here. You're ejected. And they're just smashing it. Shut up.
Are you ready? Are you ready for obscure movie reference?
Okay.
Cool Runnings with the pool stick.
Okay.
Irv Blitzer, John Candy knocking out of the radio. Another radio? Another radio? Yeah.
Okay, well done.
Do that to the robo-ump. We do have a good text in here saying Still need home plate umpires to call foul balls down the line and plays at the plate. And you need a call on the field.
You need a call on the field. You're right.
What we're coming down to here.
How crazy would it be to be the home plate umpire and you didn't have to call balls and strikes?
That would be. You'd feel like I don't even really feel like I have anything to do.
You wouldn't have to be behind the catcher.
Bored as heck. Yeah,
you'd be like
just standing next to the guy in the on deck circle.
And then when contact is made, you run over to the plate. Oh, that's foul. Oh, that's fair. Oh, here comes the play at the plate. You scurry over there. I mean, man. Now that I've heard the counterpoints, I am happy to say
you're welcome.
You're keeping home plate umpires. You're just gradually stripping their authority. You're like, yeah, Kyle Whittingham, you can stay, but we're gonna let somebody else have decision making power.
All comes back.
You're doing that.
All comes back to the emails.
It all comes back to those damn emails.
Oh man. You thought we were done talking about it. Not so fast, my friend.
Yeah, you still need, and by the way, you just like baseball of all things is the sport that is going to do things just for the sake of tradition.
Yeah.
The unwritten rules of baseball say you have to have a home plate umpire. Well, no, actually, the written rules say you have to have a home plate umpire.
The union says we have to have home plate umpires.
We have to have home plate umpires.
Speaking of, I mean, we all found out in the last year. We all rediscovered the fact that there's an NFL referees union. We gotta assume there's an umpires union that's saying, yeah, you can't get rid of us. Sorry, we're not going to agree to that.
Yeah, I don't think they would. By the way, speaking of umpires, you see your boy CB Buckner he might have a concussion.
No.
So for those of you who have not been watching baseball or haven't been listening to the show, CB Buckner is maybe the worst umpire. He's the guy that everyone's just like, "What are you doing?" He
gotten the most challenges or something.
Yeah,
or
he had wrong. 5. He was 5 for 5 on challenges wrong, including back-to-back pitches, and then he went to first base in the next game, and he called a runner out for not having touched the bag when it was like
challenged.
He didn't just touch the bag; his whole foot pounded down on the center of the bag, and the replay showed that Buckner was watching an errant throw that had gone past and bounced into the dugout. He had his eyes on the ball, not the bag.
Oh no.
He wasn't even looking at it. It was like,
oh no.
It was not even close.
I guess we needed someone when Angel Hernandez was showed the door. I guess we needed an umpire to direct all our ire at.
So he's been having just an awful start to the season. And then last night he was behind the plate again. Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, I can't remember. But foul tip, went straight into his mask. And he was like dazed, in pain, out. And he probably has a concussion. So he's just having a really bad week.
You know what?
He's probably hoping for robo umpires.
The time off might do him some good, though.
Yeah,
He'll get a reset, and he's going to be good the rest of the season. I believe heard in our guy Buck.
I heard one of the Danettes saying, like, hey, I think, like, we've seen guys get the yips in baseball.
Yeah.
Where you're a catcher who can't throw it back to the pitcher all of a sudden.
John Lester couldn't throw to first base randomly.
You're a shortstop who can't field a grounder for some reason. I don't know which of the Danettes was. I think he's got the yips. As an umpire, he can't get it right, and now it's in his own head, and he's broken. So maybe this will heal him.
Yeah, maybe a knock to the head will literally reset things for him.
You hope so.
Yeah, obviously joking there.
All right. Zach Partridge is going to join us on the other side. We'll talk a little bit about the world of combat sports. What's the latest with Fierce Fighting Championships? We got a PGA Tour leaderboard update coming your way. We got Roxy Bernstein at 1:30. There's plenty of Sean O'Connell show left. Don't go anywhere. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, time to check in on the latest in the combat sports world, locally, nationally, internationally. Fierce Fighting Championships, partner of the Sean O'Connell Show, Zach Partridge, Marco, they're both here to talk about everything going on in the world. How are things, fellas?
They're good. Good. Got coming up on another fight weekend next weekend at the Masonic Temple.
Masonic Temple downtown. Marco, how many times have you cornered, fought, been in one of these Masonic Temple atmospheres?
Ooh, the Masonic Temple. This is my first time actually fighting on the Masonic Temple.
Okay, so you haven't fought. You've cornered, though.
I've cornered a bunch.
Yeah.
A bunch of the guys. It's an incredible venue, man. Like, fighting at the Maverick Center is amazing, too. I fought places in California, but the intimacy of the show is insane. Like, even cornering, like 3 seats or like not even 1 or 2 rows back is the front row. So like everybody's on top of you. It's an amazing atmosphere and just really excited to get on there and put on a show.
It's awesome. Now, that's something you'd pay a lot of attention to when you're coaching your cornering. Kind of, you get to take it in a little bit more. When you're fighting, how much do you do it? Because that varies depending on who you're talking to as a fighter.
Honestly, I try not to take it in, but what helps is cornering so much there. I'm really big on visualizing and visualization, so I've been there so many times in the locker rooms, and I visualize the walkout, which corner I'm going towards. It's been, honestly, a blessing that I've cornered there so much that I'm just really comfortable with the arena.
Who are you fighting?
His name's Rafael Vega, I believe. He's from NorCal. I'm a SoCal boy originally, so we got that rivalry going. I already have that chip on my shoulder.
I didn't even know that. Marco Sanchez, SoCal. Marco, what's his name? Vega? Something?
Vega.
Rafael Vega, North. Okay.
Yep. I'm a Utah boy now, but still got that rivalry no matter what.
All right. Who else is on the card, Zach?
Yeah, so Marco's in our main event with Vega. That's going to be a good one. Ammon Garcia, he's back. Quick turnaround, which is nice. We haven't seen him in Utah since August at the Maverick Center. He got a quick knockout, went up to our Idaho Falls card, had another big knockout. So he's kind of rolling. That's really fun. I think we have one of the best amateur fights we've ever had at Fierce, especially that wasn't for a title, with Logan Taylor, who is our former amateur 155-pound champ. He never actually lost that belt. He got hurt and then eventually couldn't defend it for long enough that he vacated it. His teammate's currently the champ. Coming in from MMA Gold, a teammate of Vega, who Marco's fighting, is a kid named Josh Rinker. Logan and Josh are both 2 amateurs that are looking to make that jump to pro very soon. Very good. I mean, it's basically an additional pro fight on the card. They're both just getting one more amateur fight under their belt before they get going for their own reasons. It's going to be really good. We have a lot of fights on this card that are. We don't have any title fights. This is the first card we've had in a long time that hasn't had a title fight. But there's probably 3 or 4 fights on the card that will determine.
You're like setting the table.
Yeah, they'll 3 or 4 like number 1 contender type fights coming.
That's exactly what we had. I called PFL fights last week in Pittsburgh. We had that exact same thing. There wasn't a championship bout on the card, but the top 4 middleweight challengers were all fighting on that same card. So it was like whoever was going to impress the most gets the next middleweight title shot. So I like that storytelling as it's developed over these fights and these cards. This is, by the way, April 11th is the night of the fights. What time do doors open?
Doors open at 5.
Okay.
Fights start at 6.
Okay. Doors open at 5 at the Masonic Temple. Fights start at 6. This is, by the way, for a lot of people, Salt Lake City School District, this is spring break. This is the end of spring break. The perfect way to cap off your spring break. You got the kids been home. They've been bugging you all week. All right. You're like, man, I got to get out of here. Hire yourself a babysitter. Grab your lady. Get to the Masonic Temple for a little fight night. Watch Marco Sanchez in the main event. Ammon Garcia coming back. And a great card. I also wanted to ask you about something because the same night that we had fights in Pittsburgh, the UFC had fights in Seattle.
Saw that.
And Michael Chiesa, who, for people who've been watching the UFC for a long time, he's a very popular fighter. He's turned analyst now. Never a title holder, but a highly respected dude, right? Michael Chiesa, he's from the Pacific Northwest. He decided this was going to be his retirement fight, okay? and they had a big run-up to it. They had like a video package prepared. Well, the problem was Nico Price also decided he was going to retire. Same night, same fight, and they just acted like it didn't even happen. A promoter, I don't think, is fully responsible for making sure everyone gets treated the same way. Like, fighters kind of have to advocate for themselves. If you're Nico Price, you probably have to realize you're not as popular as Michael Chiesa. Maybe you need to make it more known that, hey, I got some plans too. But it is, as a promoter, as the head of the show, kind of your job to make sure everyone gets treated with respect equally. That was a wild disparity in the way that those two retirements were handled. I just wanted to know your thoughts.
It's really hard so I don't know how many people know the full story with it too, but Nico Price also took that fight on short notice.
Sure.
He was not Chiesa's original opponent for his retirement fight. And he took that fight on short notice. And then and I don't think he really made it known that this was going to be his retirement fight until like media day on Wednesday or Thursday of that week. And if I'm wrong on that, sorry, but could the UFC have done something for him? Maybe, but not to be insensitive, Nico stepped up for the UFC multiple times. He had a stint with the UFC. He got cut, took another short notice fight, came back, rose his hand to fight Robbie Lawler on his retirement fight, had a rough one. Again, company man, took it again. Like, he did enough solids for the UFC, I feel like, that he could have got something.
At least put a mic in front of his face.
But even the way that he went to retire, like DC talked about it after, and he said it just didn't feel appropriate that we had this big, like, you talk to him. Do you talk to him before you talk to Chiesa? Do you talk to him after? Do you talk to Chiesa?
That's another thing that's
like the whole producer thing. So he's like, I got somebody in my ear telling me, like, he's taking off his gloves and putting them down, and then he's got somebody in his ear being like, no, we're going to the Chiesa package, you know? So it's tough, but it would have been nice for the UFC or Dana or something in the post fight to give him his flowers, maybe on their social media, run him something after. But when you're going to fight somebody, whether it's your retirement fight or not, he went to Chiesa's hometown to do it. That's a pretty tough scenario. I don't think there's a perfect way to handle it.
There's not a perfect way to handle it. You're right. But it's something that has been talked about in the MMA world this week at least. And here I'm going to get on a soapbox here. This is something that drives me insane every time I see it, and you mostly see it in the UFC. They talk to the loser after they talk to the winner. If they're going to talk to the loser, they always talk to the loser last. Yep. And I, from the very first time I saw that, said, no, give the winner the last word, always. So if you know, like, hey, we got to talk to that guy too because the run-up was particularly interesting, or because he's retiring, or they're both retiring, or like he was the longtime champion, and so we need to talk to him about what it feels like to lose the belt or whatever. I think you should always talk to the loser first and then give the winner the last word. Marco, where do you stand on that?
I never really thought of it that way. That's actually a really good point, the way you bring that up. I really think they should have given Nico Price at least a mic just give him like 30 seconds, man. I'm sorry. I like Michael Chiesa a lot. Like, he's a great fighter. Maybe I'm still bitter from the court fight when he just skated away. I cornered against him, so I still have a little, bitterness towards him because he didn't want to engage the whole fight.
That, yes.
But they gave him a whole package like he was Jose Aldo. Like, I'm sorry, but like, you gotta, of course, honor him. He's been in the UFC for so long, and I understand he's friends with everybody and he's an analyst as well. I'm glad he got his flowers, but Nico Price was in just as long too. He's been in 23 fights, 20-something fights in the UFC. I feel like he should have at least gotten goodbye of thank you for your time.
He could have got.
I say that too, just because our guy Court McGee has one more fight left on his contract, and God willing, we're able to have that here in Utah. But win, lose, or draw, we want to give him his flowers too, because he's an incredible fighter, an incredible man, and what he's done on and off the mats,
So if it does happen here in Utah, if Court gets to do it here in Utah, though, that's the thing. He's the hometown guy. Win, lose, draw, he's going to get that time because it's in his hometown.
You're right.
That's just the rub.
Yeah,
right?
you're
100%.
Right.
So if you're Nico,
really, I'm just making a comparison where it's like Nico.
The gripe, honestly, for me then is with DC. It's with if you're the guy whose job it is, and I know it's not a perfect job, and it's always a little bit messy because you got to grab people while they're taking pictures and whatever. And you do have a producer in your ear, but the UFC, to give people a little behind the scenes type stuff, they've got this mega exclusive with Paramount, right? They are the kings of Paramount right now. So if someone from Paramount is screaming, you got to get to commercial, the UFC gets to say, no. We'll play the commercial when we're done with our business here. That's not the case with everybody. Now, it's probably an unfair expectation, but if you're somebody who's been in the broadcasting world for a decade now, like DC has, and you're also a fighter who understands the sacrifices of what it's like to take that short notice fight, to come to somebody else's hometown, to have your retirement completely ignored, it's the easiest thing in the world to say, Michael Chiesa, you get the last word. Hold on. I'm going to go give this guy some respect too. And Nico Price would have said, hey, I know I'm in his hometown. I'm not trying to take any of his shine, but it's also time for me to hang it up. Thank you to everyone who watched me, everyone who supported me. It would have taken 20 seconds.
No, you're right. And again, when you have the so now I think you're making this might be really unfair, but you went from fighter to broadcasting.
Yeah.
To make broadcasting a career, right?
Yeah.
Do we think that DC is trying to be like the best professional broadcaster he can be while he's doing all of his wrestling coaching and everything?
Well, he should be because
you're right. He should.
He makes $50,000 from the UFC every time he gets out of bed for them.
But he doesn't, and it's clear.
Well,
I love DC and I love him on the mic, and I love DC.
That's a different conversation.
So this is what I'm saying though. That's what happens when you have fighters. Retired fighters in the booth, they should understand that. And you can even see there's this awkward thing where he knows, you can kind of tell he wants to, but whether it was somebody in his ear or whatever, being like, and it's just like,
yeah, that's fair.
Whatever.
We don't know the full producer conversation.
That's what happens when the producers and stuff like that, they're not MMA guys and they're not MMA. They're on their schedule, right? And they're already having aneurysms enough, not knowing when a fight's going to end and queue up thing. They're used to everything being on a schedule. And in MMA, it's so fluid all the time.
For all of you listening, we got real inside baseball there, so I hope that everyone at least found that a little bit interesting. What matters is that the MMA world, the boxing world, the combat sports world rolls on, and locally we have an incredible promotion putting on fights. April 11th, doors open at 5, first fight at 6, Masonic Temple, right on South Temple in downtown Salt Lake City. It's an incredible venue. There's going to be awesome fights. Get to Fierce Fighting Championships. FierceFightingChampionship.com. That's the best way to get the tickets?
FierceFightingChampionship.com. Go to the event page. Click on Marco's face. That way he gets some credit for some ticket sales.
Yeah.
Comes and helps him out. And or any of the fighters if you know any of them. But, Marco's here. So go.
If Marco's
he's the main event. So if you don't know anybody, go click on his
main
picture.
Event guy.
So that's how that's how you put some extra money in his pocket. So come out, supports the show, the fighters, the local stuff. You say it really great all the time. Like a lot of these guys, these are the guys that are gonna be like, Marco's been on Karate Combat. He cornered in the UFC. He's been everywhere. Ammon Garcia is trying to get to the UFC. We have tons of amateur talent on the card. If you go give Fierce Fighting Championship a follow on Instagram, give us a follow and send me a DM that you heard me on ESPN radio today too. And the first 3 people that message me, I'll send a pair of tickets to.
Whoa. Let's go. So ticket giveaway. Okay. Fierce, you got to go follow him on social, send the DM, say you heard about it on the Sean O'Connell show. Snag yourself a pair of tickets. But you got to do it quick because only the first 3. And then if you're not one of those first 3, still go get the tickets, FierceFightingChampionship.com. Click on Marco. Give him the credit because he took time out of his day to come down here and be part of the show.
My man. I just wanted to say one thing, too. Just thank you for having me on here, Sean. I've been here once with Court, and it's an honor to be here. Zach, thank you for inviting me as well. Sure. If you ever watch me fight, I'm I love being your favorite fighter's favorite fighter, and you're one of the guys like I've always loved watching you fight. I've never had the opportunity to tell you and give you your flowers. You're an amazing fighter.
Thanks.
Analyst, amazing. But my favorite were always, I'm not as clever as you at the weigh-ins, but when it comes to fighting, I love how you fight, and that's how I fight every single time. I come out, I leave my heart out there, win, lose, or draw. I go out there and throw it down. I don't come out and lay and pray. So if you want to see some exciting fights, you want to see somebody that's going to put their heart out there and throw down, come watch me fight.
And if you want to be able to smell the blood when it happens, go to the Masonic Temple because you're that close to the Fierce Fighting Championship cage. Thanks for coming in, guys.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
All right. Third hour coming up. Kirk Cousins is going to be a first ballot Sports Business Hall of Famer. Another fully guaranteed contract, and they don't even want him to be the starter. We'll talk about it next on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, Roxy Bernstein's going to join us in about 15 minutes, which means we're going to sneak in a PGA Tour leaderboard update right now from the Valero Texas Open, brought to you by Uinta Golf. Swing into Uinta Golf by Worldwide Golf. Get custom fit for the new Ping G440K driver. The new standard in straight, dual carbon, fly wrap, and a faster face. It's Ping's highest MOI, most forgiving driver ever. You will not see me swinging another club ever. New Ping G440K driver at Uinta Golf.
I've got a pretty fast face, too. I don't know what that means.
I got the fastest face out there. All right?
Watch me on YouTube. See how fast my face
You
goes.
want to do it? That's fast facial movements. All right.
Absolutely.
What's going on at Valero Texas Open?
By the way, do I need to go in there and deflate your head a little bit after all those nice things were said about you by Marco?
Marco Sanchez just called me. He just called me a legend, and
Yeah.
so yes, I'm
Feeling
feeling
pretty good in there.
There's a dozen people, James, maybe less, in the state of Utah that remember and care about my fighting career with great fondness, and to hear from those people every once in a while, it feels good.
Well, there's way more than that. Let's be. You're being modest, I know, but I bet
might
it feels.
be a baker's dozen.
I bet it one more then. No, I bet it feels really good from a guy who's still fighting too to hear that you were he basically said you were a great influence on his fighting career too.
Well, and it's cool. Like Marco, you don't have enough time to really like dive into, but like Marco, he's been splitting time coaching and trying to like pursue his own fight career. He's cornered more guys than he has fought him. Like he's cornered way more fights than he's actually fought in. And that is a really tough balance to achieve when you're trying to make everyone else around you better and you're trying to make sure that these guys have what they need, but then he's pursuing his own goals and things like that. He's cornered at the highest level. He's cornered, as he mentioned, Court McGee many times. Court is he's 41 years old and he's still actively fighting in the UFC. He's been in the UFC for dang near 20 years now. And when it's all said and done, probably after this next fight, I mean, he's going to be the longest tenured UFC fighter from the state of Utah, and no one's going to beat that ever. So Court's going to be on like the Mount Rushmore of Utah fighters, and Marco's cornering him. So that tells you about Marco. He's fighting in the main event at Fierce. So go check it out.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought that was really cool to hear him say that about you. But moving on, PGA Tour leaderboard update, as you said, Tony Finau is the solo leader. Let's go. Rose Park's own Tony Finau at 6 under. He's through 16, so a couple more holes to go. Hopefully he's lengthening that lead there. Will Zalatoris, a.k.a. Happy Gilmore's original caddy, 5 under. Tied for second. Tied for second at 5 under, with Tommy Fleetwood also in that group. One shot off the lead there. Rounding out the top 10, there's a host of guys, including Austin Smotherman, the Smotherman, and Kevin Streelman. They are tied for 7th at 4 under. That's your top 10 there. Tony Finau in the lead. Valero Texas Open. That's your PGA Tour leaderboard update, brought to you by Uinta Golf.
Check out the new Ping G440K driver when you go to Uinta Golf, all up and down the Wasatch Front. Tell them you heard about it on the Sean O'Connell Show. All right, I teased this, and it is just one of the most glorious things that you're going to get an update on. The latest in the Kirk Cousins contract situation. His agent is just really good at the job. That's the right way to say it.
Mike McCartney, not to be confused with new Steelers head coach Mike McCarthy. Mike McCartney, the agent, yeah, he's really good at his job.
He got a fully guaranteed $20 million contract for Kirk Cousins to go play for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, $20 million for a starting quarterback is a pretty decent bargain right now in today's NFL, especially one with a lot of career wins under his belt. The thing is, Kirk Cousins is not expected to be a full-time starter. He is taking this job partially to be kind of like the transitional plan for Fernando Mendoza, the projected #1 overall pick, with the Las Vegas Raiders, who had his pro day, and by all accounts and what you were able to see, because they televised a good chunk of it, he threw the ball well, underthrew a couple of balls. He kept making points that NFL teams love to hear about how much he's excited to work, how much he's willing to work, how he was there maximizing his number of throws, not for his own pro day, not to maximize his own arm or to rest himself or whatever, but because there are 9 draft-eligible guys that are pass catchers from the University of Indiana, and he wanted to make sure all of those guys got put on tape. Like, Fernando Mendoza is just putting on a master class in the interview / extracurricular pre-draft process stuff. He's just making people fall in love with his personality, with his stance on the game of football, and then, they hope that his talent matches up with it. That's what the Raiders are going to be hoping for when they draft him number 1 overall. But it's a not bad safety outlet that you have somebody like Kirk Cousins on a fully guaranteed $20 million contract. $20 million in guaranteed money. The 11th consecutive season for Kirk Cousins to have a fully guaranteed contract. If you're a quarterback or you're an elite position player, I don't understand how you're not retaining the services of this exact same agent. If Mike McCartney can do that for Kirk Cousins, who, let's be honest, he's had some really, really good years. He's never been, in my opinion, a truly great NFL quarterback. He's never been like a top 5 guy necessarily, but 11 years now of fully guaranteed deals, and this $20 million is a lot less money than he was making previously. So this contract makes Kirk Cousins the number 1 all-time earner in NFL history.
See, that's, like you say, that's not Peyton Manning. That's not Tom Brady. That's not Patrick Mahomes. That's not, obviously, the economics were way different, but that's not Steve Young, Joe Montana. That's Kirk Cousins. That gets to have that distinction at least for now. And yeah, that's a heck of a job by his agent. Heck of a job by him. I mean, I think another underrated part of this is he is just a very likable guy. And I wonder how long away that goes in these contract negotiations, where he just like charms the room and charms the guys in charge enough where they're like, yeah, we don't have to start, but we got $20 million for you. That's fine, because we want you in our organization.
Well, here's the thing. I love a likable quarterback, ultimate team player, wonderful to be around, coach in the locker room kind of guy, which he's quite literally being asked to do, I'm sure, with Fernando Mendoza. But fully guaranteeing someone's salary better be based on a lot more than just, hey, I really like this person.
Yeah. Agreed. I just wonder how much has an effect on this.
I'm sure you're right. I'm sure it does have a large effect on it because, look, we have seen guys that are incredibly talented but just come off as total turds. I'm talking to you, Sanders boys. And they just, like, not only do you not fully guarantee a contract, but you're just like, all I need to do is use a draft pick on you, and I still don't want to do that. Right? Kirk Cousins has been in the league for 14 years, and 11 of those have been fully guaranteed deals.
When he had the other 3, maybe 1 or 2 of the other 3 were like near top market franchise tag deals too. So he's cashed in really well.
Now he is pretty durable also. He has not missed a lot of time because of injury. He did have an Achilles tear in 2023. He came back from that pretty successfully.
His level is obviously gone down a notch or 2 since then, which is why he's not considered to be a starter even at $20 million a year. But yeah, the fact that he's even still playing at a serviceable level, he absolutely has had a successful return.
Well, and especially in his youth, he was very, very durable. Then, when you start to get injured, it might be because you're 35 years plus and you're playing in a young man's game where 21-year-olds that are twice your size and twice as fast are trying to end you on every single play, right? It's like he's coming to the end of this thing, but here's the deal. Kirk Cousins is going to get paid $20 million this year, fully guaranteed, barring any like extreme scenario in which he gets fired for conduct detrimental, which is not really his thing. He goes down and his agent goes down as the ultimate businessman in NFL history. It is indisputable that him getting this level of compensation fully guaranteed when his production is not even on the same elite level as his like contemporaries, the guys that you mentioned, right? The Lamar Jacksons of the world and the Patrick Mahomes of the world. Like, these are the guys that he's being compared to directly every single year. He's older than they are, but those guys, when it's all said and done, their contracts, because of the economics, they'll probably earn more than Kirk Cousins. But how many of them are going to have fully guaranteed deals for 75% of their career? Probably none.
This is the NFL. They don't do fully guaranteed deals, and yet Kirk Cousins has had almost his entire career.
When the Browns did it with Deshaun Watson, the rest of the league got incredibly angry. And we're just like, no, you can't set this precedent, Browns. Don't do this, because now everyone's going to be asking for it. And Kirk Cousins and his agent are sitting back there just like, we've been getting this for a while.
Yeah, I got my guy a fully guaranteed deal like 3 years before Deshaun Watson did for much less money, but still it's a significant. It was what, $80-90 million. It wasn't 250. But yeah, I don't know how he's doing it. It's almost like Gordon Hayward's agent getting him a, what was it, $30 million a year with the Charlotte Hornets, the last contract he signed a couple years ago. And Gordon Hayward had long since been looked at as even a borderline all-star guy, and yet he got him $120 million over 4 years. Like, I don't know how these agents do it.
This is from yesterday. This article came out yesterday. It said, couple teams linked as potential suitors for Cousins, Green Bay and Pittsburgh. Also, maybe the Las Vegas Raiders and the Indianapolis Colts have emerged as a surprise suitor for Kirk Cousins. Does anyone else besides the Raiders give him $20 million guaranteed to be the look, he'll probably start some games. This gives the Raiders, I think, a much more friendly runway and timeline on integrating Fernando Mendoza into their system and into the NFL at large. And that's great for Fernando Mendoza. If you're Fernando Mendoza, you more than anyone else should love this. This is a lot of pressure being taken off your plate right now, immediately. Because on both sides of it, you got a veteran, but you've also got a veteran who's not exactly a bargain, which means the franchise, even though it shouldn't be this way, it absolutely is this way. The franchise is more likely to play somebody that they're paying good money to. So Kirk Cousins is going to be making more as a guy who's like a part-time starter, eventual backup, than Fernando Mendoza will be on his rookie deal. So the team is not going to be like, put Mendoza in now. We used the number one pick on him. Let's get him going. They're going to be like, it's Kirk Cousins, man. He can win us some ball games. Show the young kid how to do it.
While you were just going through that, what popped in my head back to Kirk Cousins being a nice guy. He's like the veteran version of Fernando Mendoza, too. Maybe that probably had something to do with it. It's like, we want the guy who has NFL experience version of the Boy Scout lovable puppy dog, Fernando Mendoza. We want someone for Fernando Mendoza to be like, I'm going to be like him in every single way.
Remember when there was all those videos of Kirk Cousins when his teammates from obviously very different backgrounds than him were throwing like their iced out chains on him on the airplane, and like,
yeah, the
buying him like gold grills for his teeth and
his
stuff.
His last really good season with the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, what was his alter ego? Anyway, they gave him a nickname for his alter ego. Yeah,
but it was like, they were like trying to,
it was chains or something.
They're trying to coolify him. They were trying to make him cooler. They were trying to make him a little more street, right? Same thing's going to happen with Fernando Mendoza. Only it makes sense when you're dealing with a 38-year-old, less sense when you're dealing with like a 21-year-old. But Mendoza's awesome. Kirk Cousins. The Raiders don't make a lot of great personnel moves, a lot of great personnel decisions, and I'm not intimately familiar with their cap situation and the room they have to pay him this fully guaranteed deal. But I'm assuming they're all right there because I think this is going to work out pretty nicely for Fernando, for Kirk, and for the Raiders. The rare and possible win-win-win scenario. All right, we got to take a break. Roxy Bernstein is on the Utah Mammoth game call tonight. They're in Seattle taking on the Kraken, but we'll check in with our favorite Bay Area resident, Roxy Bernstein. That's next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. It is prohibitively rare for someone to be a jack of all trades and a master of every single one, but that is Roxy Bernstein, who you can hear calling Utah Mammoth hockey tonight. You've heard him on football, baseball, basketball, and pretty much every other sport under the sun. We're lucky enough to have him on the show again today. Roxy Bernstein, welcome. How are you, sir?
But OC, I'm not even the master of my own domain. Like, I have no say in my house, but you know, if you're going to build me up like that, I'll take it.
It's funny because I 100% believe you, and it's still true. Like you're the master of every other domain, except when you go home. Well, that's the life of a married man.
Yes, as you well know. You well know. Yes, honey, I can do that. Sure.
All right, I'm very glad we get to talk to you today because I've wanted to talk to you about a lot of stuff. We'll start with something that has been a major conversation point. I don't tune into baseball regularly until we get a little bit deeper into the regular season because we got basketball and playoff hockey and playoff basketball coming up. But Major League Baseball is really fascinating right now because they're dealing with a significant change in the integration of this ABS and how it's affecting, the flow of games. More importantly, how it's affecting the ending of some games like we saw last night with the Rangers and Orioles. And you're a baseball guy through and through, so I wanted to get your thoughts on ABS and how it's affecting the Major League Baseball so far.
Well, I like the implementation of this, Sean, because first off, it's instantaneous, right? You're not like you don't check with the dugout. You're not looking. There's not a delay like an NBA coach's challenge or an NHL coach when you're challenging an offside and a goal. It has to be immediate, and you get limited opportunities to challenge. But I think it's important that they get it right. And it experimented. We saw the All-Star game, and Tarek Skubal challenged a pitch last year in the first inning. But now you're also getting – look, more times than not, these umpires are right. And 95% or better, they get it right. But sometimes they don't. And these hitters, the catchers, the pitchers, they know the strike zone. I think it's good for the game on a limited basis like we have it. I don't want it to get extended. It's got to be immediate. And there's no disjointment to the game. There's a flow. The rhythm is still there to the game. So I'm in favor of the ABS and the immediate challenging of a pitch if you don't agree.
We were somewhat facetiously debating this earlier in the show, but is there any threat that the size of crews, the home plate umpire, that maybe that changes enough that, I don't know if you get rid of them, but you alter the way you use them? Are current umpires nervous about ABS replacing them?
That's a good question. Like, will they take it to a more extreme measure, right? Will they all of a sudden have the automated zone all the time? I don't think we're going to have that. And I hope we don't have it. There has to be some human element to the game. And look, if it's an egregious miss, that's one thing. And look, if you have it a handful of times per game, good. But you need to have that human factor to the game. And I believe that the umpires should be secure in their positions as far as four-man crews. All right, will there be a replay official that I don't think we'll see that, Sean, because even now if you challenge, let's say, a call at first base or you're challenging a play at second on a double play, for example, or a call at home if they don't give a pathway to the plate, it goes back to the replay command center at Major League Baseball offices in New York. I'm good with that. This is an upgrade to the system that we had, and I think this is for the betterment of the game. I don't think it should change from where we have it right now. Like with this ABS, a part of it, but it's only briefly injected into the game.
You'll have to forgive me from jumping sport to sport here, but you're one of the few people I could talk everything with, so I'm going to. You and I spent a lot of years talking Arizona basketball, Pac-12 basketball, and obviously they're in the Big 12 now, but they're in the Final Four, and they've got a Michigan team that they're going up against this weekend that is they've been incredibly dominant on their run to this Final Four. Your thoughts on Arizona and specifically advancing to the national championship? What does it look like?
Well, I felt Arizona was the best team all year. I've had them 3 times. I had Michigan once. This is a different Arizona team than we've seen. There was criticisms on Arizona teams in the past that they weren't physically tough enough or mentally tough enough. They didn't defend well enough. This team erases all those stigmas on Arizona basketball. They're physically, mentally tough. They have veteran presence with guys like Jaden Bradley and Tobey Awaka. They have brilliance with the talented freshmen of Burries and Pete. And I love what Karchakov brings to the team. My only concern with Arizona to getting to this point would be if they had any injuries, because the depth was a concern. They have answered those challenges and gotten the Final Four. And they just happen to me, Sean, they have the two best teams playing in that game. Arizona and Michigan are playing each other. And, of course, UConn and Illinois on the other side of the bracket. But this Arizona team is just different. And they don't shoot a lot of threes. It doesn't mean they can't make them. They just don't shoot it. They pound you at the paint. They attack you. They score the most points per game in the lane. They also get to the foul line a ton. And to me, they've been the best team all season. To me, the Big 12 has been the best league in college basketball. They won the best league, and they've proven it. But now they got a very stiff test with Michigan. They're a terrific team. And as we know, this isn't the best of seven. This isn't a playoff series like we see in the NBA or the Stanley Cup playoffs. This is 40 minutes, and if you're not on your game, if you don't bring your A game, you could be in trouble, and that's the risk you run with the way this one-and-done format goes. And I think it's going to be a heck of a basketball game between Michigan and Arizona on Saturday.
There is a North Carolina ghost looming over a lot of these conversations and a lot of these games. And I don't know if I buy into it the same way some people do. I get it. That's a blue blood. That's as blue blood as you get in any college sport. But we're in a different era now where you don't have to be in one of those places to get the elite recruits. You don't have to be in one of those places to have elite NIL support. Still, North Carolina is going to do its darndest to get the best coach. And we've heard, Billy Donovan's name mentioned on the NBA side of things. We've heard Tommy Lloyd, and Tommy Lloyd has not completely squashed those rumors by saying, no, I'm at Arizona, forever. Where do you think that North Carolina job goes, and is Tommy Lloyd maybe headed there?
I'd be surprised if Tommy took the job. I know how happy he is in Tucson, and his family loves it there. They're West Coast people, right? Tommy grew up, went to college in Washington, was at Gonzaga for 21 years with Mark Few. Now, I'm not saying that's for sure no, and Tommy should be smart to listen because it creates leverage, right? If you got leverage, it means you can get more money out of the place you're at. And so he may use it as leverage to get more money from Arizona. Would it shock me if he left? No. Would I be surprised? Yes. Just because I know how happy he is and the success that he's had at Arizona, the grass isn't always greener. You don't have to go somewhere else. And I don't think that's necessarily the way Tommy looks at things. Again, he was at Gonzaga for 21 years. He had opportunities to leave. He chose the right one when it presented itself. And Arizona's a great fit for Tommy Lloyd and his family. And then, Dusty May's name has been thrown out there as well for Michigan. North Carolina is certainly an attractive job and one of the elite jobs in college basketball. But there's also some pressures that come with that. And you're always under the microscope. And that's the other thing. It could be a drawback to that North Carolina job. They're going to get a great coach. It's North Carolina. I just don't think it's necessarily going to be Tommy Lloyd or maybe even Dusty May for that matter.
Roxy Bernstein, our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show for another couple minutes. He's actually calling Mammoth Kraken, and I promise we're going to get to that. But Roxy's my guy, so we're talking a little bit of everything. And before we get to hockey, I don't know how well you know the Hurleys, but we saw one of the strangest scenarios I can remember in college basketball where Dan Hurley goes forehead to forehead with an official. Nothing happens. It's heavily talked about, and both the official and the coach said, no, that was nothing. But then the official is not assigned to the Final Four, even though he has plenty of Final Four experience. And you've called so many games in so many different sports. You've seen so many coach, referee, official interactions. What did you think?
I thought people are making a big deal out of nothing. Roger Ayers has seen it all in college basketball. You alluded to his history working all those Final Fours. And Dan Hurley gets some leeway for who he is. And the last thing the referees want to do, OC, is decide a game, right? Now, did Danny Hurley maybe cross a line, and was there a head? I don't know. And we don't know what was said between the two of them at the time. And I'm glad they let the players decide it and didn't all of a sudden on a technicality decide to hand a technical to Danny Hurley and give free throws to Duke and give them a chance to win the game. The players decided, right? Duke unfortunately made a huge mistake toward the end of that game, leading to a desperation shot from 30-plus feet out that went in to win the game for UConn. Caught up in the emotion, the excitement, they went nose to nose on something. Who knows, again, what the topic was. But there's a relationship there between Roger Ayers and Danny Hurley. And look, the Hurleys, and Bobby too, they're terrific coaches and great basketball people. The last thing that they're going to do is put their team in a horrible spot. They're a little nuts, as we know, right? We've seen their antics on the sidelines. We've seen their post-game tirades. But they're both a good kind of nuts. And you have to be different. You have to be crazy to be a very good coach, I think, at that level. And maybe even a little bit insane. But I'm glad that Roger Ayers and that officiating crew didn't interject into that game. People are, especially from the Duke perspective, that should have been a technical foul. No, the players decided the game, and that's what's best for college basketball.
I think that's where I came out on it, even though I was like, man, how do you let a coach get away with that? But I never want referees, officials to be the deciding factor in any game. And every time it happens where we feel like they have decided a game, what do? We complain, we gripe, we moan. And so we didn't get that. Plus, we got a conversation point in sports radio. And for me, that, Roxy, is a win-win. Now let's get to some hockey here. Utah Mammoth, Seattle Kraken, you're on the call tonight. This Mammoth team, in its second year of existence in Salt Lake City, Utah Hockey Club, of course, the first season, now they're the Utah Mammoth. They're headed, barring any major surprises, they're headed to the playoffs, which is kind of on the timeline we hoped for and expected. What kind of a factor do you think they could be in those Western Conference playoffs?
They're going to be the interesting matchup. And the key OC is for Utah to stay in the number one wildcard spot, not fall to the number two. They have a 5-point cushion on a playoff spot right now. According to Statleet, is one of the projection services we use at ESPN, they say the Mammoth have a 99% chance to make the playoffs. But the key is to stay in that number one wild card, because then you avoid the Colorado Avalanche and that number one seed in the Western Conference. You want to get the winners of the Pacific if you're the number one wild card, which is more than likely going to be either Anaheim or Edmonton is really coming on right now. But I think it's great for the Mammoth to be in this position. It's weird because they've played well on the road down the stretch. They struggled at home, which is bizarre. But their power play has gotten better. They've gotten great goaltending from Vejmelka. And they added at the deadline when you bring in a veteran defenseman like Mackenzie Weegar. This is going to be an interesting matchup for teams in the playoffs, because I think it's all new for this organization to be there. You get the favorable matchup in a lot of ways in that first round that you avoid the Avalanche. But they're going to be a tough team to reckon with, because they have some depth scoring, they have some speed, and they have terrific goaltending. And they're a team right now that's feeling good about themselves, and another big step they can take tonight if they can take care of the Kraken here in Seattle.
When we talk NBA playoffs, it's always like, man, not only do you have to be a really good team, you got to have some depth, but you get down to it, you better have superstars that can really push you over the top. And obviously basketball and hockey are very, very different games. But does the Mammoth lack of like big-time superstar talent, does that hurt them in playoff hockey?
Physicality and size are a question, right? Because you have Clayton Keller's a smaller player. And a lot of times in the playoffs, the smaller players tend to struggle a bit because the game changes. And in the regular season, it's based on speed, up and down the ice. But then when you get into a series, a lot of strategy comes in, and it's more physical. And that's where you get a lot of uglier goals come the playoffs. You have to get those greasy goals in front of the net, which changes the way the game is played. But the key factor that I've always gone back to, Sean, in the playoffs is having a hot goaltender. Can, for example, Vejmelka steal you a game or two in a series that can help you win it? That's what you need. And we've seen it more in hockey than For example, it's hockey's similar to baseball in terms of just get into the tournament, right? Get into the playoffs, and that gives yourself a chance. We've seen an 8 seed win it in the NHL. You're not going to see that in the NBA. It's a hot goaltender, health-wise, who's ready to go, who's beat up. It's a war of attrition once you get to the postseason. It's just you have to find your way in, and the Mammoth are almost there to wrapping up that playoff spot here in year 2.
When it all comes down to it, is anyone going to be able to dethrone the Colorado Avalanche, who've been the obvious best team in the league for the bulk of this year?
But the crazy thing is, Sean, you're just one injury away. And
Yeah.
that's the problem. If something were to happen to Nathan McKinnon, right, or Cale Makar, how does that impact the Avs? And teams just this time of the year know how to win. And the scary thing is if Edmonton gets Draisaitl back, I know goaltending has been an issue, and defensively the Oilers have had some problems. But arguably you still have two of the best players in the world with McDavid and Draisaitl if they're healthy. And they've been in the Stanley Cup final each of the last 2 years. That's a scary proposition to face. And Edmonton is a dangerous team. And the interesting move, though, is Vegas making the coaching change and dumping Bruce Cassidy all of a sudden, hiring John Tortorella with 8 games to go in the regular season to jolt this team and maybe shake them up. And Vegas becomes certainly a different team to watch come the playoffs. But Vegas is more than likely going to be in that 2-3 Pacific Division battle against the wild card 1 winner and whoever ends up winning the Pacific, whether it is Anaheim or Edmonton. But that's the side of the bracket if Utah's in, OC, that if they happen to get the number 1 wild card spot, puts them in a good position.
I can't let you get out of here without asking you a Macklin Celebrini question because, you're a Sharks guy. You're a Bay Area guy.
MVP.
Look, a teenager scoring 100 points and putting himself on a list with guys like Lemieux and Gretzky, I don't know if there's any superlatives that really fit. We saw him in the Olympics. We saw him in the regular season. And the Sharks feel like they're ahead of schedule for playoff hockey as well with Macklin Celebrini in the fold. So what is this kid going to grow into?
He's doing this at 19 years of age, OC. It is insane what he's able to do. Like, 19-year-old kids shouldn't be doing this against the best players in the world. He's 50 points better than anybody else on his team. And even, like, if the Sharks didn't have Macklin Celebrini, they'd be lucky to have 50 points. And the impact that he's had both on and off the ice around this franchise, they needed it desperately. You were around the Bay Area when they were good, and then they stunk for a long time. And he's given them life again. And if San Jose happens to make the playoffs, he needs to be the Hart Trophy winner. And nothing against McDavid or Kucherov, whoever you want to put in the conversation. But at 19 years of age to be doing this, and his performance last night was incredible, that they stole that game last night because of Macklin Celebrini. He is going to be a star, maybe the face of the league for a long time. And I've had conversations with guys in other teams, and they just shake their heads when they talk about the impact that he has. When you're getting praise from guys like Crosby and McKinnon about playing with him, that goes to show you all you need to know. And he is going to be one of the best players. And look, nothing against Joe Thornton or Patrick Marleau or whatever Sharks player from the past, Joe Pavelski that you want to name. When it's all said and done, Macklin Celebrini will be the greatest Shark in the history of that organization.
And Roxy will be there calling games, watching games, talking to us about games. Listen to him on Kraken Mammoth tonight on Hulu and on ESPN+. Roxy, appreciate your time as always. Great to hear from you, sir.
Always good catching up, my brother. Take care, OC.
That's Roxy Bernstein, best in the business, play-by-play on NHL, Major League Baseball, college football, college basketball. He can handle anything. All right, we've got Weezer tickets to give away, and we'll get Spence Checketts' thoughts on today. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, 2 tickets to Weezer at the Maverick Center. If you can answer this question at 877-353-0700, the concert's happening September 15th. Kirk Cousins got $20 million guaranteed from the Raiders. At the end of this contract, it's just 1 year. It's just 1 year. Where will he rank amongst all-time NFL earners in terms of just NFL salary? 877-353-0700. Kirk Cousins ranks where among all-time NFL salary earners? Advanced Window Products brings you the end of the show. Crosstalk every single day. 801-850-9100. $2,500 off, 10 windows or more. And look, your energy costs, you're probably worried about them today because you're like, oh, spring, summer, it's here. Wait, I just peeked out of our windows and I see snowflakes coming down. So you need an energy-efficient home. You need windows that help your home be energy efficient. Advanced Window Products take care of that for you. Spence Checketts and the driver up next, which means he's here. Hi.
Can we tell the Roxy Bernstein story on air?
I've told it. It happened on there. I've told it many times.
All right. That's so funny. So go ahead.
Well,
floor is yours.
So I met Roxy when I was doing radio in the Bay Area.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And, one of the times we had him on was Christmas was coming. And we were talking about, just like I was doing radio with Matt Steinmetz, who loved the guy, but the most like curmudgeonly, I don't want to have any fun with my radio kind of thing ever.
Oh, okay.
So I was just like, how about this? And I would just come up with outlandish stuff. And I happened to decide I was going to ask Roxy Bernstein about the Christmas traditions in his household.
It's so good.
His name's Roxy Bernstein.
It's perfect. It's perfect because when we moved back east, I had a friend, made a friend, his name was Brian Crane. Less obvious Jewish name, but very, very Jewish. And it was kind of the same deal. I asked him what his family was doing for Christmas and looked at me sideways. And that's when I learned about Hanukkah.
Yeah.
So 8 great nights.
Yeah. There's just not a lot of influence there. It's like, and I consider myself a citizen of the world, right?
Well,
like,
now, certainly now with how much you've traveled.
But I had already traveled plenty before that, and like, I just like, you get a blind spot for certain things, and I grew up with no Jewish influence in my life at all.
Right, yeah.
And then it became like a bit a funny thing between Roxy and myself, and then Jeff Schwartz when he and I were doing Pac-12 radio together, and Roxy was a regular guest on that.
Yeah.
And our producer, Dan Lynch, like all of these people we're talking about their bar mitzvahs, and I was just like, that didn't happen in Utah.
Yeah, it didn't. And if you only have the Utah experience, like I did up until, for the most part, till I was like 11, I didn't know much about any of the other things other than what we're raised around here.
Yeah.
And if you're in any form of entertainment, you better get familiar.
Yeah.
Because they are all over the place, respectfully. I can remember my little cousin. We had been living back east for like 2 years. And my cousins came out to visit. And we went to a place called Rye Playland. Rye Playland is the place. Do you remember the movie Big?
Yeah.
Remember when he did the whole like genie and boom and suddenly his life is completely screwed up? That was at Rye Playland, okay? It's a rundown, think Lagoon on meth. It's this rundown little place. And my little cousin, about an hour into the event, she's probably 8, only Utah prism. She leans over to my mom and she goes, "Aunt Deb, why are there so many black people here?" She's like, "What's going on?" She'd never. This is a bountiful Utah 8-year-old, that probably had seen them on television or something. I think I'm safe to share this one. A family member of mine. Okay, I don't want to say who. I don't want to. I don't want to throw them under the bus.
Okay, it's Spence himself.
It is not. I promise it wasn't. But we were on a vacation, and the lady, the maid, the cleaning lady, the help, people like you would say, showed up to clean our room, and she was African American. And later on, this family member of mine was playing with some kids at the resort and said to one of them, "Michael Jordan's mom is cleaning." The person who cleans our room is Michael Jordan's mom.
Wow.
That's like the
only reference point for African Americans in this person's life was Michael Jordan.
I think he was 5. But I overheard him telling like another 5-year-old, like Michael Jordan's mom is cleaning our room.
Wow.
Moral of the story: get out of Utah from time to time.
Well, and good job, Utah. We're a lot more diverse than we used to be.
Well, yes, undeniably yes.
My high school graduating class was like 778 kids. 2 of those 778 were checking the black box on their surveys.
Certainly more diverse than we used to be. I always got a kick out of this, though. Sigma Chi, Morgan Scally, shout out.
Yeah.
And at the house, they used to say, we're a really diverse house on campus. What that meant was like 10 people drank and weren't totally Mormon. There was like, we're all white. When I used to hear them talk about diversity, I'm like, am I the only one in this room of 50 dudes that are all white that doesn't believe that because that guy has a beer, we're diverse? Like, it's such a weird thing to say.
Just, your lens is important. And a lot of us that grew up in Utah, you're very insulated culturally. And again, we're getting better at it. The best way to get good at it is to travel, get out of here,
100%.
have fun, go see the rest of the world and the rest of the country, by the way. And then you will internalize less and less what you see on the news and on television about the human race.
Well said.
You'll use your human experience to create those judgments, and that is just a better way to do it.
Well said. And not every black man over 6'2" plays a sport. Like here, if you see a black dude that's 6'5", you're like, whoa, man, jazz player? Ute, something. Can't just live here, right? Like that's not how the world works.
Probably a tough life to be tall and black in Utah.
Like I don't play for the Jazz. Just I'm having a steak. I'm out to dinner. Leave me alone.
It's kind of like me. Like I go out and people are like, oh, what movie do you have coming out? What campaign are you modeling in right now? I'm like, guys, please.
Jeez.
I'm just incredibly ruggedly handsome. Stop.
It must make you feel like a piece of meat. It must make you feel like objectified.
And I love it every single time.
Okay. How many times does that happen?
0.
Okay.
Exactly 0.
Fair enough.
I love when they do this. Dan Orlovsky's autistic son is on ESPN right now.
Yeah.
Drawing and, just like living his life and just it's the coolest thing.
It is.
I love that our own guy, like we talked about at the end of yesterday's show, John Millar from West Valley, shout out, does the shoes for all these NBA players and the NBA initiative towards autism awareness and stuff. So if you can get involved, do. By the way, Kirk Cousins, to answer the trivia question for today, when the Raiders pay him his $20 million fully guaranteed, he is number 1 on the NFL's all-time list of earners.
Kirk Cousins is the Gordon Hayward of the NFL. A couple white guys that are decent that have made a ton of money. Hayward made like $400 million and made 1 All-Star game.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Congratulations to them. Though.
Kirk Cousins is now passing up Tom Brady.
That's ridiculous. But get your bag.
Yeah, do your thing.
By the way, the Dan Orlovsky hate, I think he's great.
I think
not a big Dan guy.
I am. I like him. I think what people don't like about him is that he just generates hot takes because that's what ESPN tells you to do. And they come across as incredibly disingenuous. And it's like, no, Dan, don't do that.
Yeah.
Just break down the film again for us. Don't tell us Kyler Murray is the best starting quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
To be controversial and to have an article written about you.
Yeah, I feel like over there, a lot of their best analysts are sucked into the Stephen A. Smith world.
It's terrible.
And then suddenly it's like, dude, what happened to you? The one exception, I'll give this guy a ton of credit, was J.J. Redick. J.J. Redick never took that bait. And he actually made Stephen A. Smith look like a clown multiple times because Stephen A. was trying to do the Stephen A. thing, which is nebulous, mundane word salad that means nothing. And Redick would call him out, like, dude, you didn't say anything there. You obviously don't know anything about what you're talking about. And then, JJ's now doing a great job with the Lakers. So,
all right. Stay tuned for the drive with Spence Checketts. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Drive safe out there. We'll do it again tomorrow. ESPN 700.